He walked in erect, firm, and he did not lower his head one.
Huh? What the fuck? Your favorite pretty boy, Ultra Giga Tyrone, back to rage bait more people with his narcissism.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man walah. Amma ba'd.
Oh my lord.
Last week's halaqah, we had discussed the infamous incident of the satanic verses, and we had mentioned the number of opinions, and Allahu A'lam, but it appears that there was no such story. And the fact of the matter is that the Quraysh prostrated simply because of the power of Surah An-Najm. And this rumor, as we said, led to the Muslims to return from Abyssinia, and when they came back, they discovered that this rumor was false. Now, number of points here. Before we get back to the actual story, the question arises about the number of people who immigrated the first time to Abyssinia, and who was not a part of that initial batch. Now, we're not going to go over all of the opinion, that's a little bit too advanced, but the main point is that from the immediate Sahaba of the Prophet ﷺ, of course the greatest companion is Abu Bakr, right? We'll discuss his case. Umar, at this point, why didn't Umar immigrate to Abyssinia? Who can tell me? He wasn't even a Muslim yet. Okay. Uthman, is he immigrating to Abyssinia? Yes, he was of those who immigrated. And then who is left? Ali ibn Abi Talib. Ali at this stage is still a young child, really. You know, he's probably at this stage, he's probably around 9-10 years old. So the question of Ali immigrating could not come about, okay? Therefore, out of the Sahaba, the only two, out of the four, let's say the main Sahaba, the only two who qualify are Abu Bakr and Uthman. Uthman immigrated. How about Abu Bakr? We didn't mention his story. The story of Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr initially decided to immigrate. And he decided to accompany Uthman and the people to go to Abyssinia. But on the way to the ship, on the way to Jeddah, they passed by the neighboring tribe. The leader of that tribe was Ibn ad-Daghina. Ibn ad-Daghina was the leader of that tribe. And the tribe name is not known, so is not known to us here, so we're not going to confuse you more with more and more names. The main point is the leader, or the chief, Ibn ad-Daghina, he saw all of them leaving. So, and they packed their bags, they have all of the camels loaded. So he said, where are you going? So they said, we're going to Abyssinia. He said, why? So they explained, where our people have tortured us, they have not allowed us to worship, and we are all going to a land where we can worship Allah. Now Ibn ad-Daghina had used to have a good partnership with Abu Bakr in buying and selling. He was somebody whom Abu Bakr knew personally. So Ibn ad-Daghina, when he saw out of all of these people, he picked on Abu Bakr, and he said, someone like you does not deserve to leave the land of Mecca. And if your people have persecuted you, then let me intercede on your behalf. And let me go and talk to them and give you my protection. Now remember, the whole Jahili system is based on who's going to protect who, right? And the tribe of Abu Bakr has basically accepted that they're not going to protect Abu Bakr anymore, okay? And so Ibn ad-Daghina said, let me go and negotiate on your behalf, and maybe they'll take my protection so that they're not going to harm you. And so Abu Bakr said, okay, let's give it a try. So Abu Bakr and Ibn ad-Daghina returned back. The rest of the Sahaba immigrated to Abyssinia. And Ibn ad-Daghina entered Mecca, and he approached the Kaaba, and it was the time that everybody sits. As we said many, many times, they had an afternoon time, where basically when everything is over in the day, you come and you sit in front of the Kaaba. And Ibn ad-Daghina announced that, O people of Mecca, would you accept it if I offered my protection to Abu Bakr? Now notice, he cannot do so instantaneously because it's the land of Mecca. And Ibn Daghina is not from the Quraysh, he's from another tribe, right? And so it's like a neighboring country saying, this is our citizen, can he live amongst you? And he has our rights. It's as if he's my tribe member. So
I need to read some books on like pre-Arabia tribes. Just like regular objective historical books, because I'm hearing these tribes a lot being mentioned a lot. And bro, like, one, I need to get used to these names. Number one, I need to get used to these names. Like, I'm a history buff, right? Obviously this is what my channel is about, learning history. And it's very important to, you know, get accustomed with this. My goal in my personal life, one of the goals, is to try and learn the history of different parts of the world as objectively as possible, so that I better understand modern context on why certain things are the way that they are in that part of the world. Now, how does that relate to this? Well, a lot. I live in the West, and because I live in the West, people really just don't understand anything about the Middle East. I'm very ignorant about the Middle East as well. But and I even said this anyways, the Middle East is very rich in culture and history. And I always express interest in actually properly learning more about this. In fact, actually, if you really watch my videos, you'll even hear me say, like, if there is a language that I would probably learn after Russian, I wish that I would be required to learn after Russian, it would be Arabic, really and truly, right? Although I actually do intend to learn a bit of Arabic to, like, hopefully read the Quran properly, so that I can get a better understanding of it. So I'm gonna get some of you know this. I talked to a few people, but there are some people know. The whole idea is get the English Quran first, make a series on that. I'm still debating if I'm gonna live stream that or just post videos regarding it. Then during that period of time as well, be learning Arabic so that I can eventually reread the Quran in Arabic, right? And not just that, anyways. I mean, it'll be good for learning this region as well. Guys, one of the main reasons, probably the main reason why I even started learning Russian, because I very much still teach myself Russian. In fact, this is the reason why I haven't even bothered to get started on my series with the Quran yet, because Russian is like, bro, I need to make sure my Russian is at a relatively stable level first before I get started on anything else. Guys, that's why 2 weeks ago, not 2 weeks ago, but 3 weeks ago probably now, maybe a month, I don't know, but a couple weeks ago, I dropped that video showing you how I study Russian every day for 5 hours, because I really wanted to show you guys, like, this is the main thing that's eating up all my time. This is why you always hear me in my videos. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it next. But I haven't done it yet. Right? I don't want you guys thinking like, oh, he's never going to do it. No, I will. Like I said before, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Okay? Like I said before, you heard me saying so many times, oh, I'm going to get braces. I'm going to get braces. For a long time, I was saying that. Like the real people, the real OGs, because I have a bunch of new people that watch my videos now, but the real OGs who've been watching me binge watch my videos, damn well I was saying for a long time, I'm gonna get braces, right? To the point where it's like, bro, am I actually gonna get braces? And then like one day I just randomly just popped up with braces. Like, it's gonna be like that, bro. Like one day, I'm not really gonna like announce it or anything. Like one day you would just see me just randomly pop with either a video or a live stream reading the verse in the Quran, just talking about it. So yeah, expect that. Literally expect that. But the Arabic and just it's just necessary, honestly. Like it's really better just to understand their perspectives. It's very similar to Russian. It's like nobody really looks at the Russian perspective much, and a lot of Russian history is very distorted in the Western media. And it's like, okay, let me learn more Russian so I can better learn more about this region properly, and don't get me a distorted view that the West purposely distorted. It's very similar to that when it comes to like Arabic and just this region. But reacting to all of these videos have just really just given me a big curiosity to just study the Quran and compare it with the Bible, and see which one is just much more logical and sensible. I already said this before, though. I don't care if you're Christian or Muslim. As long as you believe in God, from my perspective, is like you're fine. Let's say, I don't know, like I decide to convert to Islam. To me, it's like, okay, well, I convert to Islam. I don't really think it would be a big deal. It'll just be like, okay, well, this is more accurate, so I'm just gonna go convert here. But it's like, okay, but it's the same God, same people, same shit. It's just like it's just minor differences, really and truly. but it's like, okay, I still believe in God. I still have faith. So it's like, okay, I'm still doing good regardless, even though I'm not Muslim. So it's like, okay, I'm already at the finish line, right? I'm just giving an example there. And even the Quran literally does state like the people of the book should like encourages the people of the book to continue practicing their respective Abrahamic faiths, which is interesting because Judaism, I'm pretty sure Judaism believes that Jesus is in hell, and it's like, it's like you're encouraging people to believe that Jesus is in hell. Interesting, right? But not even like just the Quran. It's like overall, it's like, no, this region is quite interesting because I keep on hearing these tribes, like these names of these tribes always being brought up. I'm like, and the more I hear it, and more I'm like, bro, I gotta like learn more about this stuff, bro. I have to learn more about this stuff. I keep on hearing these names being repeated over and over, and it'll give me better historical context, anyways. For just over a whole bunch of things, y'all could like figure that out, right? But yeah, who knows? Maybe a year from now, hopefully a year from now, 2 years from now. Hopefully not 2 years from now. That'll be so far. But maybe like a year from now, right? You might see me drop a video that I did on Russian, on the Russian language. How I teach myself Arabic. Right? Who knows? God willing.
This is an adoption, if you like, right? So Ibn Daghina said, I'll adopt Abu Bakr. Let him live amongst your own people. Like basically, imagine America going to Canada, the Canadian government saying to America that, okay, look, forget his American citizenship, pretend he's a Canadian, right? That's basically what's happening.
I gotta read more
Ibn Daghina
books
is saying,
on these tribes.
let me offer my protection to Abu Bakr, but then he
books.
needs the permission of the Quraysh. Are you going to accept? And Ibn Daghina was a trading partner. Ibn Daghina was the chieftain of a neighboring tribe, the tribe that is next to Mecca. And so they basically had to agree because it's a neighboring tribe. And they wanted to just make him happy. So they said, okay, we will accept your protection for Abu Bakr. And therefore Abu Bakr did not emigrate because of Ibn Daghina. However, they said to Ibn Daghina, we're only going to allow this with one condition. And that is Abu Bakr cannot pray publicly. Because Abu Bakr was of the elite of the Quraysh, and before this, he would pray in front of the Kaaba. And he was of the few people who was brave to pray in front of the Kaaba. Everything changed with the conversion of Umar. When Umar converted, then Muslims could pray in front of the Kaaba. Before that time, you had to be a really brave person. And it was really only the Prophet who would regularly pray. Once in a while, Abu Bakr joined him. So they said, we're not going to allow Abu Bakr to pray publicly. And if he agrees to this, we'll agree to your protection that he can do as he pleases in private, but not in public. And therefore the Quraysh agreed and Abu Bakr agreed. And therefore what he decided to do was, he was the first person to ever build a masjid. This is what it says. The first person to build a masjid. He didn't build a masjid structure. He basically extended his house and he made a room into his place of worship, right? Because they didn't allow him to worship publicly, so he decided to make a public masjid, right? He's using the loopholes here. So he builds an extension of the house and he begins praying in that extension. And he prays out loud because it's his house, and the condition was he can pray in his house, right? So he's basically reading through the lines here. He builds an extension, he makes a masjid, and then he starts praying out loud in his house, which is now a masjid. Obviously what's going to happen? The people, Abu Bakr's tilawa was a very gentle tilawa. And Abu Bakr's recitation of the Quran was a very melodious recitation. And Ibn Ishaq says, the women and the children would gather around in amazement listening to Abu Bakr's recitation, because it was a beautiful recitation. And his own daughter Aisha tells us that Abu Bakr kana rajulan bakka'an. He was a man who very easily began to cry. And he would weep from the fear of Allah. And so when he recited the Quran, he would cry and he would beg Allah for forgiveness. So it's a very emotional recitation. So the people began to gather around his house every time he's praying. You know, it's a small city, it's a quiet time at night. You're reading Fajr or Maghrib or Isha or Tahajjud. Anybody walking by can hear you. You know, it's dead silent. It's not like the city. You know, it's like the houses are far, far away. It's a small, you know how it used to be in those days. Many of you might remember from back home, still houses are small, narrow alleyways. So Abu Bakr's recitation is going 5 blocks, let's say, right? Because that's what a block is for them. You know, each houses are there. So people began gathering outside of his house. Now, technically, the condition was he could read in his house, and that's what he did. But this got to a point where they sent a messenger to Ibn Daghina, and they said, we have to take back our condition. He cannot even pray in his house. SubhanAllah. We have to take back our condition. He cannot even pray in his house. You have to tell him to stop praying even in his house. So Ibn Daghina came to Mecca when the messenger came. Ibn Daghina came to Mecca and he said to Abu Bakr that, "Oh Abu Bakr, I have no choice except to ask you to stop praying even. Or allow me out of this protection because I can't give you that type of protection." Right? You have one of two choices. That you either stop praying or I can't protect you anymore. Obviously, I don't need to tell you which one Abu Bakr chose. Right? So he said, "I throw back your protection to you and I accept the protection of Allah." I throw back your protection to you that you're free now. You have done your job. You did it now. You couldn't stand up basically because Ibn Daghina didn't fight at all. He just basically agreed. And in one sense we understand because it's not his territory. It's not his, and he's really going out of his way to help Abu Bakr. So Abu Bakr said, "Okay, thanks but no thanks. Take your protection back and I trust in the protection of Allah." And after this, he was in Mecca without any protection other than the protection of Allah. And that is why I told the story 2 weeks ago that when Abu Bakr came to protect the Prophet ﷺ, they almost beat him to death. And nobody lifted a finger because he was not under anybody's protection. Remember, I told you the story 2 weeks ago that somebody came and tried to choke the Prophet ﷺ. Abu Bakr came and pulled it out and said, "Ataqtuluna rajulan an yaqula rabbi Allah?" Are you going to kill a person just because he said Allah is my Lord? And they began beating him until he was the equivalent of hospitalized. He was immobilized for more than a week and he could not move in his house because of the severity of beating. How could they get away with this even though Abu Bakr was Qurashi? Because his own sub-tribe had basically withdrawn and Ibn Daghina had withdrawn. So now he is a homeless person.
Let's talk about God's protection. This is so interesting, right? The concept of free will. God doesn't do anything to you. He's not going to force anything. But something that's always going through my mind is, okay, we have free will. God isn't doing anything or not. And I partially asked this question as well when I was like, hold on a second. You have these Muslims and you have these Christians that are fighting in the Crusades. I asked this question. I was like, and both are saying God is with us, quite literally, praying to God for victory, calling for God's power, guided. That's so bizarre in the Crusade series. I still gotta continue my second Crusade reaction. I really gotta continue that. So I asked that question. I was like, okay, what do you guys think? One of the comments from Saqib, the guy who even made me do this series, I think his name is Saqib. I hope I'm mentioning it, but I do remember that comment from Saqib. Most definitely, there's a lot of comments that I still remember where it's okay, that's a very interesting, this is worth really remembering, right? And he said, this is from his perspective, God does not really do anything in a context like this. He just lets whatever happens. So I'm like, okay. And that really made me think. So then, that concept of free will versus God's protection. If God is protecting you, because I even talked about this as well, where I'm like, in a concept where technically you're supposed to die, right? I even brought up that car accident that I had as an example. I was like, in a context like that, where you're supposed to die, God will look at this and be like, yeah, no. But then I'm like, hold on a second. Is he altering, when you alter time, you go back in time and you stop a person from doing something and it has this huge butterfly effect. I'm like, isn't that what's gonna happen? Because, okay, if God doesn't really do anything, right, and he protects people whenever he sees fit, then it's how much of time is changing because of this? Time would be so different, wouldn't it be? And also, wouldn't that go against his whole concept of free will? Let's say, okay, this person is gonna, unalive another person. God sees what's going on because God is omnipresent, right? God sees this, sees that this person is about to get unalive, but he looks at this person and he's like, nah, I'm not gonna let this person unalive you. But I'm like, every time I hear something like this, like, oh, God protected you from this person or whatever, I'm like, so hold on a second. God is messing with that person's free will, because that person is using their free will to unalive you, right? For whatever reason, maybe jealousy, envy. Unfortunately, a lot of people are getting unalive for that now, increasingly. Yikes. But anyways, something like that. But God is like, nah, even though this person is using their free will, I'm gonna step in and alter the story. Doesn't that defeat the whole purpose of being sent down here to like do your own actions and like having actions like done to you? I don't think the actions we done to you is a big deal. More like you're messing with people doing their actions. Like, I'll hear so much like, oh my God, God stopped you from doing this action. And it's like, why? He's messing with your free will. Isn't the whole point for God to just not make you, but just watch you do it and then you'll be judged for it? Like that whole concept of, oh my God, God protect you. It is like, or I'll even hear people say like, oh man, God is giving you a chance. Like, oh, you live longer because, God is still giving you a chance so that you could repent or you could find God or something like that. I'm just like, bro, if you're supposed to die at a set limit and God gives you longer, according to what I hear so much, isn't that defeating the whole purpose of just like sending us on the earth? Does that make sense what I'm trying to like convey? It's just kind of like, because on Judgment Day, when Judgment Day happens, can't you like go to God and argue to God like, well, you were interfering with us. You were protecting people here. You were altering events. Because people will straight up say that, oh, God completely altered this event so that this didn't happen. And it's like, huh? But then I'll hear people say, like, whenever something bad happens, right? I'll hear people say, oh, but God let that bad thing happen, Oh, but that's just the devil, bro. Oh, that's just the devil, bro. I hear those two things a lot. And it's like, okay, so you're telling me like sometimes God is protecting you, literally altering, messing with people's free will if they intend on doing something, because he doesn't see that it's necessary for this person to die. Then it's, no, God looks at these other people and it's like, yeah, they could go and lose their lives, whatever. It's like, what? Oh, I'm gonna just let the devil go and do whatever that you want to do. It's like, that low-key always just kind of perplexes me.
He's living at his own risk, and he continued to live at his own risk until the Prophet ﷺ emigrated to Medina.
Why is this?
Now, we already mentioned that around 14, some say 15, some say 16, some say 17, between 14 to 17 people emigrated. Allahu Alam, the strongest opinion would be 12 men and 5 women. So that's a total of 17. 12 men and 5 women. So we talked about the fact they heard
that. That sounds a lot better.
As they're coming back, they're eagerly asking, have the people of Mecca accepted? Have the people of Mecca accepted? They're waiting for a caravan to get the news before they get to Mecca. The first caravan they meet, they ask. And the people of the caravan said, you have heard false. This is not the case. The people of Mecca are as they were, and the new religion is being persecuted. And so this jolted them. This was a big shock for them, so much so that some of them said, let's just go back. Before entering Mecca, let's just go back. Now, can you imagine, put yourself in their shoes. Mecca is right in front of you, right? This is your homeland, your relatives, your possession, everything is there. Literally, you're just one step away. And now, debate occurs, should we go back or not? Until obviously, emotionally, psychologically, they said, look, we're so close, let's just go back and see what the situation is like, right? Life would have been very tough. As we said, imagine a different culture, a different language. They don't speak Abyssinian. It's a whole different land. whole different environment. It's much worse than we can imagine. And I forgot to mention one point when I mentioned this issue, that subhanAllah, one of the punishments of Islamic law, which is no longer practiced pretty much anywhere in the world because the world has changed, and this shows that sometimes change is permissible. One of the punishments of Islamic law for certain crimes is called at-taghrib. At-taghrib means leave your land and go somewhere else. If you're from, let's say, the Hijaz, go live in the Najd. If you're from the Najd, go live in Syria or someplace, right? One of the punishments for certain types of petty crimes, right? That you're not going to be whipped, you're not going to be jailed, just go live somewhere else for a year. That was a punishment. Wallahi, in our times, that's not a punishment, it's sightseeing, right? This is a vacation. You're telling me to go for a year, it's a vacation, okay. So look at how times have changed, that to leave your society, to leave your land, was a type of punishment. And so the Sahaba had to self-inflict this punishment when they went to Abyssinia. When they come back, they decided, okay, let's just go see what is happening in Mecca. Now, when they left Mecca, they had basically, again I'm speaking in modern equivalent, they had cancelled their passports. They had renegated from their tribe, because that's the whole point now. So when they go back in, they cannot just expect the same protection. So each one of them has to find new protection. Each one of them has to find a new sponsor. Like, what's going to be my entry visa to get into Mecca? And we have some stories about what happened here. Uthman ibn Mad'un. Uthman ibn Mad'un, one of the famous Sahaba, and he has a lot of stories in the Seerah, and he died an early death in one of the battles of Shaheed. Uthman ibn Mad'un reached out to Al-Walid ibn al-Mughira, the same one who is the famous poet, because he had a friendship with him. And Al-Walid ibn al-Mughira agreed. And so Al-Walid marched with him, and they publicly announced, this is how they enacted treaties, they publicly announced, Al-Walid said, I have given my protection to Uthman ibn Mad'un. And so Uthman remained completely protected. Walid is one of the most powerful men in Mecca. We already said Allah revealed verses in the Quran. This is the father of who? Khalid ibn al-Walid. This is the father of Khalid, right? This is the one whom Allah revealed Muddathir. ذَرْنِي وَمَنْ خَلَقْتُ وَحِيدًا وَجَعَلْتُ لَهُ مَالًا مَمْدُودًا وَبَنِينَ شُهُودًا. All of this Allah is talking about. This is Al-Walid, the one who فَكَّرَ وَقَدَّرَ. He thought, what am I going to say about the Prophet ﷺ? And then he said, this is a strange type of magic. This is Al-Walid, one of the most powerful men, rivaling Abu Jahl. So Al-Walid gave protection to Uthman. And because this is Walid, Uthman, not a hair on his head was touched.
Wait, so he is the father of Khalid bin al-Wahid, and he was one of the most powerful men. Bro, no wonder why Khalid came out, and that man was unstoppable, man. No, it makes sense now, bro. Oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. No, I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. I still love to like jokingly say like, oh, he had plot armor from God. Like, God gave him that plot armor. But it's like, bro, that's who his father was? If I'm not mistaken, based on what he's... No. Oh, my God. That, bro. No wonder. Let me tell you some parents will always... Like, people really forget that parents pass on, like, you know, like personality traits. Not just physical traits as well. Personality traits too, bro. You inherit that. You're from your grandparents, all that shit too, bro. That makes so much sense. So much freaking sense, bro. Golly.
Ibn Ishaq says, when
Uthman so
would go back and forth in the city, and he would see the Muslims being persecuted, and he would see that he himself was untouched, his guilt began to get the better of him, even though he's not doing anything wrong. And he said, how come they are suffering and I am in safety? How come they are suffering and I am in safety? So one day he went to Al-Walid ibn al-Mughira, and he said that, oh my uncle, Walid is a senior man, elder man, oh my uncle, please take your protection back. Rudda alayya jiwarak. Your jiwar is called the protection. Just take back your jiwar. So Al-Walid said, my nephew, what has happened? Has anybody harmed you? Have I not done my service? I mean, is anything, why do you want to return it? It's a very obviously big thing. Why do you want to return it? So he said, I cannot bear to see my fellow brothers and sisters suffer while I have this freedom. SubhanAllah. Look at, now there's nothing sinful per se about Uthman's situation, but his conscience was so strong. He said, why do I have, just because I have a friendship with Walid from the days of Jahiliyyah, now he's protecting me, how about the rest of the people? How about Ibn Mas'ud? How about Bilal? How about even the other people who returned from Abyssinia and who didn't get the protection I got? It's not fair. And so he voluntarily returned Al-Walid's protection. And Al-Walid came to the Kaaba and he said that, O people of Mecca, Uthman has asked that I return his protection to him. And Uthman announced that, yes, I have done this, and it's not because of any issue of Al-Walid. So he wants to make sure that people don't think that Al-Walid fell short. It's because I have my own reasons. It's nothing to do with Al-Walid. So, okay, announcement is made. They're not going to just jump and attack on him. I mean, okay, the announcement is made. Now he comes walking back, and he passes by a very famous poet who was visiting Mecca at the time. One of the most famous poets, so much so he is of the mu'allaqat, or he is of the poets who has written the most famous poetry in pre-Islam.
I got something to say about this.
He is one of those poets who eventually accepted Islam. Eventually, right now he's not
This
Muslim.
reminds me of a question that I was supposed to ask regarding the authenticity of the Quran, but I'm going to let him speak.
He's one of the few of the mighty poets, if you like, who eventually accepted Islam. His name is Labid. His name is Labid. And he passed by, and Labid was sitting on the majlis, and all the people of Quraysh were surrounding. You know, the poetry, you know, this is their entertainment, right? So Labid is reciting poetry. And Labid was not from the Quraysh, he was a visitor. They had invited him for their festival. So Labid is reciting poetry, and so he begins to listen. Labid says, and he recites a line of poetry, أَلَا كُلُّ شَيْءٍ مَا خَلَى اللَّهَ بَاطِلُ. Now, pause here, footnote. The Prophet ﷺ said, the most truthful statement that any poet has ever said is this statement of Al-Walid. أَلَا كُلُّ شَيْءٍ مَا خَلَى اللَّهَ بَاطِلُ. The Prophet said, he quoted this. One of the few lines of poetry the Prophet ﷺ actually quoted. He hardly quoted poetry, but this is one of the lines he quoted. In fact, it's half a line, half a stanza. And so what does it mean? It means, verily, everything other than Allah is useless. أَلَا كُلُّ شَيْءٍ مَا خَلَى اللَّهَ بَاطِلُ. Right? So he said this line. And so he's very impressed, meaning Uthman. Eventually Labid accepted Islam, but right now he's a mushrik. So obviously you're happy. He's very impressed. And he said, Sadaqta, you have spoken the truth. Everything besides Allah is useless. The only thing that's worthy to concentrate on and to make an ultimate goal is Allah. Everything besides Allah is just useless.
Okay, a few things here before he continues, right? A few things here to note. Bro, okay, a lot of people really need to understand this. A lot of people really need to understand this a lot more. Even religious people really don't seem to understand this. I'm talking about Abrahamic faith religion. I mean, you know, I see so many people that care so much about, oh my God, this person's opinion of me. Oh my God, I care so much. That doesn't matter because they're gonna die. We're all gonna die, and the world is gonna be so different when Judgment Day happens. I'm talking in the perspective of like just religious people, not really talking like atheists here. But it always blows my mind whenever I see people of the Abrahamic faiths be so caught up on like such worldly affairs, and I'm like, bro, you have the wrong priorities. Now, I am not saying like, oh my God, you need to be such a freak. You need to be like one of those, I don't know, like monks from Mount Ethos. No, obviously not. But I'm just saying, stuff like people's perception of you, that does not matter. People judging you does not matter. None of that matters, bro. Only, wait, people need to hear this shit more. Only this shit from God matters. And this is why, for me personally, I don't care about anyone's opinion. I have such a dismissive, bro, who are you to talk on me? I swear, whenever I get comments that are yapping nonsense about me, it's like, bro, who are you to speak on me? You are on a channel that God blessed me with. Obviously, I have to do, you know, the hard work, and even though I still have to put in the hard work across. But you are on a channel that I was blessed with, mind you, because remember, everything is God's will. So God let me have this goddamn channel, a place where I could say, you know, the stuff that I'm saying. So not only for this is how I view shit, bro. I'm like, okay, God let me have this channel, so that was in His will, so I could say this stuff that I'm saying, right? Then you want to come here and yap about, oh, how dare you talk about some of your life experiences that happened to you because you're a pretty boy? Okay, God willfully let me be a pretty boy. God is willfully letting me, because remember, everything is in God's will, right? So God is letting all this shit happen for, right? This is how I view this shit in relation to him, because you guys really need to understand this shit more. A lot of people need to understand this shit more. Everything is all about God, not people. Like bro. So God is like, you know what's even more funnier about that, right? That's my favorite quote. I was supposed to die at birth. Like, people talk about you overshare. You don't know shit about me. I only talk about shit when it's relevant. And this is relevant right now. So not only was I supposed to die at birth, I'm not going to say that story right now. That's another day. I was supposed to die at birth. I wasn't even supposed to be born. So God let me live. He let me live. Let me come out to be a pretty boy. Let me go through the life that I'm going through right now. Giving me the experience that I have. Let me have this channel. And he's allowing me to share my experiences with people. That, my friend, is why I am the way that I am. That is why I always confidently come here on my videos. I proudly say, bitch, I am a pretty boy, and this is my experience that I have, that God let me, because from my perspective, God is the one who let me have that experience. Remember, if you believe in God, you believe that God purposely gives people different types of lives on purpose, right? In the Seerah that we did here, he talked about how God purposely let Prophet Muhammad go through a lot of shit because he had to develop his character for the future. Again, so all of that is a part of God and his part. It's all about God. It's all about God. And then you people want to come here, not all of you, of course, but you people want to come here, yap in my comments that God willfully gave me, willfully blessed me with, and say, how dare I speak on my experiences in my life that I wasn't even supposed to be living, but God let me live. I can't share that now. And this is why I just come on here and I proudly, not just proudly obviously, but I so confidently come on camera, and of course it has to be relevant. Of course, it always has to be relevant, guys. Always has to be relevant. But this is why I always come on camera and I just say the shit that I say, because from my perspective, it's like, bro, God allowed this shit to happen. This is all God's will. If God gave me the damn green light, who the hell are you to bitch and moan? Who are you? God gave me the green light. God gave me the green light to be better looking than 99% of men. So who the fuck are you to bitch about me simply pointing that out? Who are you? Whenever I see a person who has more money than me, or who just simply has a better attribute, the first thing that just comes in my mind is just like, okay, God gave them the green light for that. That's all a part of God's will. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's just God. That's just God. All that is God. I'm like, whatever. It is. God just wanted them to be like that for whatever his reasoning is. That's how I view things. That's how I view so much shit with people, bro. Not even just so much shit. I'm just like, yo, like, that's just how I view it with everything. Now let's talk about the poet and the Quran. I could honestly talk more about what I'm talking about, but let me ask this question before I continue with what I'm saying here. So this time period, actually, some people in my comments were actually pointing out that this time period, poetry was like the main focus of things, right? So when the Quran was revealed, it was very like the miracles of the Quran was very heavily focused on like the literature aspect. Now, okay, I mean, it's like, okay, that makes sense, that's logical, but it's like, what if you're not that good in literature? How the hell are you really supposed to understand it? Remember that video that I did on the rings in the Quran? What was it? It was something about rings. I forgot the title. All I remember was God damn it! It was like a miracle. Hold on a second, guys. Let me find that title. The ring competition. Yes. Remember when I did that video? It was really hard for me to understand what exactly was being said. It's like, bro, maybe it was just because I was tired. I don't know. I should probably rewatch that video off camera, to be honest. But it was like, I'm like, bro, this is so like literature heavy focused that it was like, huh? What? The thing with the miracles in the Bible, at least, these miracles were miracles where you didn't really need to focus. That's in my personal opinion, that's a key regard of a miracle. A miracle is something where anybody could just look at it and be like, just right off the bat, like, you could be the dumbest person in the world. You don't need to scan through and dig so hard. It's like you just see it. What do you Ryan get, man? Bruised my hand there, man. Sorry. I was speaking my Creole language there. I don't speak that much, but I saw my hand bruise and it just automatically came out. Anyways, yes, a lot of people don't know that, but I do speak a dialect slash some people call it dialect, but some people call it Creole. But anyways, so it's like a miracle. It's just like the dumbest person in the world could look at it and be like, holy crap, yeah, this is a miracle. Like this is just unexplainable, but this is definitely a miracle, right? Like when Moses split the Red Sea, right? That's the most famous example I could do, right? Or the birth of Jesus, right? Anybody could look at that and be like, oh my God, wow, I don't know how this happened, but wow, I see it in front of my eyes. I don't need this to be explained to me. I just see it happen. And it's just like, wow, right? No complications, none of that. You just see it happen. It's like, damn, whoa. That's why it's like, when I'm like listening to these videos on like the Quran and why the way the Quran is written is a miracle, it's like, it seems complicated. It just seems so overly complicated. It's like, you want people to believe in God, right? Right? That's the whole point of the Quran, right? To, guide people towards God, if I'm not mistaken, right? You're God. You're trying to like show these people like, yo, you need to worship me. I'm real, right? You gotta show like, I'm real, bro. I'm real. Worship me. Why are you making such an overly complicated text? Right? Like some people might be reading this and be like, oh, this is too much. I don't really see anything. Or they might just completely, some of y'all were even saying that I looked over some stuff. I was like, when I was reading these comments, I was like, wait, I did? I glanced over some aspects. There were some important details that I didn't notice. That's what I mean. Like a miracle, when it comes to a miracle, there should like, in my personal opinion, a miracle should never ever be just like, never have a chance of being glossed over. Never. Not a single percentage. Never. Like when Moses split the Red Sea, anybody will look at that throughout all of time and will be like, yes, he split the Red Sea and it was a miracle. There's no possible way to gloss over that at all. It was so absolute and so grand. It's like you cannot do that, right? So there's that, number one. Number two, and this is the other question here. You cannot tell me that's not a good question, now, is it? I want to hear what the comments are going to say to that. Number two, this is a time period where literature was so really heavy focus. There's a lot of literature aspects going on, a lot of poets, writers, chroniclers, all of that. This thought came up in my head a while ago. I forgot to ask. So I was like, hold on a second. This time period, if this is true, then isn't it simply easy to find someone who's like an expert in literature to write the Quran? Because literature, it can be so what's the word I'm looking for to best describe this? It could be so delicate, right? Literature could be so creative in such ways that it can really feel like it's a miracle, unironically. And I even mentioned this in the comments of the video of the composition rings of the Quran, where I was like, I think I mentioned this in both the comments and the video. I was like, I was in creative writing class. And even though I hated that class, one thing that I already learned about that class, from that class, is how sophisticated as hell literature can go. Literacy can get really sophisticated that you genuinely would need an expert to like break down like the message, why certain things are in different positions. And that's why I even said in that video, I'm like, you know, when it was talking about the ring composition, I'm like, I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. This seems like some really good literacy expert kind of just wrote this. Because if you guys, I recommend you to go look into this. Look into how sophisticated literacy can get and literature can get, and you'll understand what I mean. If you don't really know how sophisticated literacy and literature can get, then you won't really see it. You'll just look at it, and without that context, it'll be mind-blowing. And that's the thing with literacy and literature. It can be mind-blowing. It does get mind-blowing. To the point where you can metaphorically be like, man, this is so miraculous because this is just so amazing, delicate, sophisticated. It's like something unnatural created this. Unironically, bro. That's why, you know, I'm asking this question. I'm like, well, we're gonna have an expert have just written the Quran for the Prophet, like, because remember that comment that I said from a Christian who was like, the Prophet, he allegedly, according to this comment, not my words, dear God, the Prophet created the Quran as an excuse to unite the Arab tribes to go and conquer, right? Remember that video that I did this week, right? Did Islam conquer by the sword? It was well established that it was more than normal to conquer other places, right? If you see someone can be conquered, you're gonna go conquer them, right? That was the norm. People did it to survive. That was just how things were. Okay, conquering. You're in a position to conquer, you're gonna conquer. If you see that someone can be conquered, you're gonna go conquer them. So what that person was saying, right, bringing up that comment, was the Prophet didn't even care about the religion. He just used the religion as an excuse to get political clout so that he could go and conquer the weakened Byzantine Empire. And this is something that he highlighted as well. He was like, look at the context of the time. The Roman Empire was weak. The Justinian plague just happened. 25% of the population dead. Not just that, but the Persian Empire was also affected, not as bad by the Justinian plague, but was noticeably affected as well by it. Good portion of their population died, but it wasn't as severe as 25%. But it still affected them, right? Especially their army. Not just that, but you had the Romans and the Persians constantly fighting for hundreds of years, especially during that time before the Arabs came out of the blue. and no one was expecting them, right? Well, that's what is taught anyways. So they were weakened by the Justinian plague and weakened by fighting each other so much. They were nowhere near their full strength. Nowhere near. So he was like, bro, look at that context. Look at that historical context right there. He's like, this is the most opportune moment to get up and conquer. Remember, guys, conquering. If you see someone can be conquered, you're gonna get up and conquer them. Back then, that's how it was. Like, you're not gonna just sit around, not take the opportunity. No, you're gonna pounce on that. So he was like, bro, well, that's what Muhammad did. Muhammad saw that these two empires, two superpowers, were at their weakest in a long time, and he saw the opportunity to conquer and gain political leverage, gain more power and resources for himself. That's what that comment was explaining. Now, be really objective with me here, especially, you know, that we really establish conquering was like the norm. And if you see, you know, like an opportunity, you're going to pounce on it. It does make sense though, right? Not only that, but it's just like, okay, he sees the opportunity. He needs a reason to get all these Arab tribes to unite to conquer these other people, right? Couldn't he have just like went up to like one of these poets, explained to him like the whole idea or whatever, and you know, just be like, okay, I need you to write this book, and I need you to write it so sophisticated that it's basically like a miracle. Because remember, guys, literacy can be really like deep, can be really sophisticated. Literacy is like an art, bro, right? Like, imagine if I don't know, hypothetically, a prophet came out, some hypothetical prophet came out and was like, ugh, look at this fine piece of art depicting heaven, guys. God gave me this art. Nobody else saw it though, but God gave me it, and you need to trust my word. And you want to know how I know this is from God? How you guys can tell? Look at how just cleanly drawn this art is. No human could possibly ever do this. Look at the lines. You think a human could draw a line like this? You think a human could paint on this level that you see all these such details? Look at what this art is depicting. This is stuff that nobody has ever talked about. This proves that God is real, right? Now, obviously, as I'm saying that, I mean, you're probably subconsciously thinking, but wait, couldn't you argue like some subconscious thought or some subconscious argument is automatically popping in your head of, oh, this could easily be man-made? Because, right, I said that imagine a prophet just comes and says that. We all know that didn't happen. So you're probably thinking in your head like, okay, obviously this is not a real prophet. And as I kept on adding more details, you're probably immediately think of counter arguments, right? Probably. That's how right now I look at the Quran. I'm like, it makes so much logical sense, but I really just need to do more research on it, because there is still a lot of questions to be asked and a lot of rebuttals that you could potentially use it. Now, there were some aspects like the scientific miracles, right? That part is like, I said this before, I'll say it again, but still it's important, because I'm still acknowledging there are still some aspects of the Quran where it's like, yeah, I don't think no human could possibly, but based on my knowledge right now, because knowledge increases over time, but based on my knowledge right now, the scientific aspects is the most convincing thing, because I'm like, I can't really question how anyone at that time period could really know any shit like embryos and all that. I can't really. Who the hell would know something like that? right? So there's that. Like, you could really, really question a lot. You could really, based on my current knowledge, you could really make up a lot of rebuttals of it. But that's why I said I gotta read it, do a deep dive analysis, and read the Bible so I understand the context of, like, more proper context as well. A lot of things, guys. So yeah, those two things. I know it was a lot to say, but still, it's very important to say. Now, going back to what I was saying earlier about everything is all about God. Everything is useless aside from Allah. Okay. And this is another reason why I just say whatever the hell I feel like saying. Because the only person, and I tell people this all the time, the only damn person that can humble me is God. Is God. Only God can humble me. If God wants to send a person that's smarter than me, and obviously there's a person that's smarter than you, obviously. If God wants to humble me by sending a person smarter than me, then obviously, I'm just gonna have to acknowledge that, okay, yeah, this person's smarter than me. It is what it is. If he wants to humble me by sending me a person that's better looking than me, okay, he's gonna send me a person that's better looking than me. Although that's hard. I mean, I always regard myself as probably one of the most attractive men that's currently alive right now, because really and truly, it's like really hard to find a dude like me. But it's like, although regarding that though, it's like, and this goes into what I was saying anyways, when you reach a certain level of attractiveness, it doesn't even matter that you're attractive anymore. I get that analogy in the video yesterday. It's like, you see a guy with $20 million and you have $10 million. It's like, oh, he has more money than me. But then you're like, oh, but I still have $10 million. It doesn't matter. Right? So it's like, that's why whenever I see, it's so rare, but if I see a dude that's attractive, I'm like, bro, I don't even give a shit. Because I'm enough. I'm enough to where it's like, okay, well, whatever. I'm still getting the same benefits as him anyways, right? And I'm able to satisfy my potential spouse to where she wouldn't even care about him. But anyways, but yeah, I'll give you a good example of what I think would be God humbling me. This happened like a good 3 nights ago. So y'all know I'm like super narcissistic as shit, right? But I'm like humble with it, right? So one night, 3 nights ago or whatever, I was really being narcissistic. This was not on camera though. But like, I was really just being extremely narcissistic, gassing myself up to the max. You could imagine it, like, just having extreme narcissistic thoughts, bro. Like, shit, bro. Like, I'm a 1 in a million dude. Ain't nobody could compete to me. All that type of shit, right? Yeah, I have narcissistic thoughts all the time. Very normal. That's a part of being a narcissist, of course. But I was walking around my room, cleaning my room, thinking about that. And all of a sudden, I feel my bone in my toes just start to, because like your bones are connected into joints, right? Like a puzzle. And you could like remove it like a puzzle, right? But it's painful as shit. Like when you like dislocate your arm, like you could push it back in. And I've actually saw that happen to someone before. I was like, oh my God, the amount of pain that person was in. Whew. But anyways, so yeah, I was like, walking around being narcissistic. I just feel my bone. I take a step. And keep in mind, I'm not taking any crazy step. I'm just walking around normally. All of a sudden, I just feel my fucking bone just coming out of my fucking socket, bro. On my toes. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I had to stop because, that's painful as shit. So I see my bone, like, I feel my bone literally coming out, my toenail bones, right? coming out from the main feed. And I'm like, oh shit. I feel that pain coming on. I'm like, oh God. I'm like, oh my God. Then I'm like, yo, this is God. I'm like, okay, this is God reminding me of who the fuck he is. This is God reminding me, like, yo, nigga, don't forget who's allowing you to look that pretty. Don't forget who put you in that position, right? So I believe that was that, because I was like, that was like the first thoughts that came in my head. I'm like, okay, this is fucking God humbling my ass, because I was like having like extreme narcissistic thoughts. And you know, I stopped walking and I'm like trying to, you know, because this is painful, bro. It literally like is out. It was more than one bone. It wasn't even just one. So I'm like, okay, God, okay, I understand. Okay, chill. Like, you know, being a bit too narcissistic there. Okay, I get it. Like, you are obviously above me. Like, that's literally what I said in my head. Like, okay, God, I see what you're doing. I understand you. Okay, don't get too arrogant here. Don't forget who you are, bro. The moment that I said that shit, I shit you not, I literally feel my bones go back inside. The pain immediately just starts to just fade away. And I just feel my bones just going back into place. The moment I said that shit, bro, I shit you not. And, you know, when they went back in, the pain went away. You know, I was walking. I continued walking and cleaning around my room. And I was like, was it the way I was walking or was it God? I'm like, okay, let me just watch how I'm walking. I'm still walking around thinking that this shit might come out of my socket again. Really paranoid, because that was really painful. And it never did. Never did. And this is why I always come on this damn camera and I'm like, bro, me versus you, especially because you're on my channel, you're on my domain. I'm sorry, but in this field here, I'm above you in this field anyways. I'm above you, bro. Like, this is my field. This is my domain. Domain expansion, bitch. Jujutsu Kaisen reference. You know, when a nigga does a domain expansion, is like, bitch, you're in my world now. You're cooked. But anyways, although someone could do their own domain expansion and override that domain expansion, whatever. All I'm saying is, bro, the only person that can humble me is God. I don't need you come in my blasted comments, yap about how dare you talk about this, how dare you talk about that, how dare you talk about how pretty you are. Yeah, because God is the one who permit this shit, so I can talk about it. And this goes back into me saying, this is why I believe you shouldn't be restricted. Like, you shouldn't be forced to wear a hijab. Like, if God gave you a specific look, he's giving that look for a damn reason, bro. Go express it. Go and show it. Don't hide it. God made you unique. The fuck? Anyways. So, everything revolves around God. God is the one responsible for everything. Your opinion doesn't matter. That's why I come here and I don't care, because I honestly, whenever I say this stuff about myself and I give my story, I expect these comments anyways. I expect some people to be disgruntled with the, such a fancy word, right? But yes, I expect people to be so disgruntled, but I'm like, bro, I don't give a shit, bro. It's my experience, my life. You cannot invalidate my experience. You cannot comment on it. This is what I went through. This is what God made me go through, mind you. Like, it's like, come on. I have all the blasted credentials and permissions that I need. God damn it. If God had a problem with it, God would probably do some shit to where I wouldn't be able to come on here and speak about this shit.
And then he said, وَكُلُّ نَعِيمٍ, and every single blessing لا محالة زائل. Without any doubt, it will disappear. Every enjoyment will disappear. Now, Uthman's heart had gone so high that what a beautiful line of poetry. Then he said something that he didn't agree with. So he said, كذبت. You have just lied. Because Jannah will never disappear. Right? This is, yani the line of poetry is that everything besides Allah is useless. And every pleasure, there is no doubt about it, will come to an end. And here Uthman said, no, you're lying. The pleasures of Jannah will never come to an end.
I don't think he was talking about heaven, but okay. I think he was just talking about, I mean, I don't know. From what I was hearing, it sounded like he was just talking about the earth and vanity and all that stuff. Something the Bible talks about, by the way. The Bible always stresses that vanity, these worldly things, is all going to come to an end and it won't matter.
Now this is in a large, you imagine this, this is the dignitary, this is the VIP, right? All of the Quraysh around him, he has just withdrawn his protection, right? And right then and there, literally on the way back, because they had the Nadi over there, on the way back he utters this statement. And Labid gets irritated. I mean, he is the guest of honor here. And he said, since when have you treated your guests with this manner? I mean, if you stand up and, a speaker has come from another place, since when have you, this is rude. I am your guest, you've invited me to recite my poetry, and now he doesn't know what's going on, obviously. Labid doesn't know that Uthman is a Muslim, and he doesn't understand all of this, right? So he considers Uthman a heckler in the audience.
Oh,
right? You understand this, right? And so he says to the Quraysh, since when has this become your custom that you heckle your visitors? And so somebody stood up in anger and gave him a hard smack and basically gave him a black eye. And his left eye became completely swollen, and he went home. And when Al-Walid heard, Al-Walid came rushing to his house and said, my nephew, why did you get rid of my protection? I mean, I could have, it's foolishness. Come back with me, I'll give it back to you. I mean, you see what's happening here. And so Uthman responds that, no, this is not a problem at all. Verily, and this is a classic line of Uthman, he said, verily, my other eye is now in need of the blessings that this eye has gotten. My other eye is jealous now. It
Hold on a second, y'all.
needs to get the same thing as this eye. And he refused to get back under the protection of Al-Walid. And this shows us that, subhanAllah, I mean, some of the Sahaba did get that protection. Some of them remained in it, right? And this shows us people are at different levels. And there's nothing wrong with those who remained, but some of them did not feel comfortable, and so they returned their protection. Of those who kept the protection is Abu Salama. Of course, Abu Salama is the husband of Salama. Abu Salama is going to die shortly, and the Prophet is going to marry Salama, right? So this is that Abu Salama. So Abu Salama returned back, because Abu Salama and Salama migrated first, and then they migrated again, as we're going to talk about. There were two migrations to Abyssinia, as we're going to talk about. So Abu Salama comes back. Abu Salama is actually a cousin of the Prophet ﷺ, but he's a cousin from his mother's side, not the father's side. So Abu Salama is not Banu Hashim. Abu Salama is actually Banu Makhzum. Banu Makhzum is Abu Jahl, right? Abu Salama is from the tribe of Abu Jahl, but his mother is the aunt of the Prophet ﷺ, i.e. Abdullah's sister. Right? You guys following? Abdullah's sister is Abu Salama's mother. So Abu Salama doesn't want to reach out to Abu Jahl. I mean, come on, Abu Jahl's not going to give me protection. So who can he reach out to? His uncle from his mother's side. Who is? Abu Talib. Abu Talib, right? Abu Talib is his mother's brother. So he sends a message to Abu Talib that, look, can you basically sponsor me? Can you get me into your tribe, basically protection? So Abu Talib said, of course, yes. Now, what do you think Abu Jahl is going to do when he hears that somebody else has taken one of his tribe members? Who do you think you are? So, a delegation comes from Banu Makhzum to the house of Abu Talib again. You're interfering in our politics. This is our guy, right? Who do you think you are to offer him protection? Because it's a matter of honor, it's a matter of snubbing their nose, basically, right? And so Abu Jahl and others, they get angry at Abu Talib. And Abu Talib said, well, if I'm going to give protection to one nephew, meaning the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, why can't I give protection to the other nephew? Meaning Abu Salama. I mean, if I'm going to protect one, why can't I protect the other? And so they were not going to budge, and they surrounded his house, and an argument broke out. And then Allah brought about a solution from a source we would never expect. Abu Lahab. Abu Lahab stood up and he said, have you not irritated this old man enough? I mean, Abu Talib is a senior figure. He's an elderly person. Abu Lahab is now feeling compassion for his brother, not because he loves the Prophet ﷺ, but just as a brother. Because after all, they are brothers, And so he stood up and he said, have you not irritated this old man enough Let him be. Utrukuhu. Come on, let him be. How much are you going to pester this guy? Let him be. For wallahi, if you're going to continue, then I'm going to have to force my side. I'm going to choose him. This is Abu Lahab speaking, right? And he's not speaking out of a love for Islam. He's speaking out of his love for his tribe and the protection of his chieftain, right? And as we said, that type of love is not going to help you in Islam. Even Abu Talib loved the Prophet ﷺ, but not a religious love. It was a love of uncle. It was a love of a fatherly figure. It was a love of a fellow Hashemite. But it was not a religious love that we have for our Messenger ﷺ. He didn't have that religious love. He had a paternal love. And that love is not going to necessarily save you from the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even though it helped a little bit for Abu Talib's case. So Abu Lahab stood up and defended against Abu Jahl. Can you imagine the amazing scene here, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses whomever He chooses to help this religion. Somebody like Abu Lahab, there have been more than one time where he's done small things that have brought some benefit to Islam, even though he didn't do it for the sake of Islam. And our Prophet ﷺ said in Medina many years later, he said, verily, Allah can help this religion from a kafir, from a pagan. Allah can help, Allah will help, sorry, is a better translation. Inna Allah la yu'ayyidu hadha ad-din. Allah sometimes helps this religion from a person who's not even a believer of it. And these types of incidents, they demonstrate the truth of what the Prophet ﷺ said. So the point being that the situation in Mecca remained status quo. It didn't change at all. And the Quraysh continued to persecute the Muslims. And so the initial batch that had immigrated from Abyssinia came together and decided, what do we do now? And the bulk of them said, let's go back. It was a mistake to come back. Now, let us go back. But in the meantime, they had stayed in Mecca 2-3 weeks, and the news spread amongst all of the Muslims about how good life was in Abyssinia, at least in terms of physical harm. Yes, it was difficult culturally and language and climate, but not hostile. And at the end of the day, if you're living, as we said, the two best blessings that Allah gives, الَّذِي أَطْعَمَهُ مِنْ جُوعٍ وَأَمَنَهُ مِنْ خَوْفٍ, right? These are the biggest blessings that Allah gives after Iman. And they had that in Abyssinia. They had food and they had safety. These are the best blessings. And so when they heard this, a large percentage of Muslims, we don't know how many Muslims were in Mecca at the time, there were no census, but it is probably correct to say that at least 30-40% of the Muslims of Mecca, if not 50%, decided to immigrate. Now that's a huge number, right? Yani half of your people are now leaving. Half of the Muslims are leaving. It's a huge number. And so, it is as if, and this is my opinion and Allah knows best, the wisdom why Allah allowed these early Muslims to come back only to return was so that the bulk of the Muslims, or a large group of Muslims, would then be convinced to travel to Abyssinia. Because as we all know, the number one way to be convinced is what? Word of mouth. It's the number one way to actually be convinced. My friend told me, right? That's the number one way. And there was no other way that so many Muslims would have emigrated to Abyssinia. No way. Unless Allah allowed the very Muslims who benefited to come back, tell the people status quo, and then people were convinced. And so, for the second immigration, more than 80 Muslims emigrated. That's more than quadruple the number that went the first time. More than 80 Muslims migrated, and this time they were headed by Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, the direct, obviously, cousin of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, please note though, of that initial batch of 17, not all of them returned in the 80. 17 went and came back. Some of those decided to remain. The most famous person who remained, Uthman ibn Affan. Uthman ibn Affan decided to remain, and he then immigrated to Medina. He participated in Badr and Uhud and all of the rest of the battles. So Uthman ibn Affan did not go back the second time, right? Of course, Abu Salama, Salama went back, and Abu Salama then passed away over there. Other Sahaba that did not go back, it is said that Mus'ab ibn Umair, the famous Mus'ab ibn Umair, who was the first to immigrate to Medina, right, the first person who the Prophet sent to Medina, because his own parents had tortured him the worst torture, his own mother and father. So the Prophet first sent him to Abyssinia. Then when he came back, he decided that he wanted to stay with the Prophet. So he stayed with the Prophet, but then within 3 years, before the immigration that he himself did, the Prophet, he sent Mus'ab. As soon as the first batch of Muslims accepted Islam, the Prophet said to Mus'ab, go to Medina and you can live there. So Mus'ab also did not return to Abyssinia. Other Sahaba as well, some of them returned, some of them didn't. Now, when over 80 people, and Mecca at this time probably had only a few hundred people in it, right? So 80 people in Mecca represents more than 15%, 20% of the people of Mecca. It's a percentage of the city. Remember, Mecca is not a thriving metropolis. It is composed of, and I said this way back in the beginning, when we say tribe, don't think 1,000 people. Think more like 10. Look at the Banu Hashim. There were 10 brothers. Right? There were 10 brothers, the descendants of Abdul Muttalib. That's all they were, 10 brothers. So don't think of like massive, no, these are small sub-tribes, and there's only 6 or 7 sub-tribes of the Quraysh. So you do the math. Again, we don't have census records, but there were for sure, there were not more than 1,000 people in Mecca, for sure. And that's if there were 1,000, most likely there were even 600, 500. Out of that, 80 are migrating. I mean, that's like more than 10% of your population, right? And it's a big embarrassment that your own people are leaving. This is unprecedented in all of Arabia. You never have your own tribesmen migrate out of your tribe. It's a huge embarrassment. And this is the Quraysh, the one that is the strongest tribe, the most elite, the most protective, the custodians of the Haram. And now they have 10-15% of their own tribespeople emigrate. This is a shame. And they cannot bear this. And so when they immigrated to Abyssinia, now the Quraysh decided, we cannot allow this immigration, we need to stop it. We need to stop it. So what did they do? They decided to send 2 people to Abyssinia and appeal directly to the Najashi. Najashi is the title of the person who rules Abyssinia. Like Caesar is the title of the ruler of Rome. Like Pharaoh is the title of the ruler of Egypt. It's not the name. Najashi is not his name. And in fact, his name was Ashuma. His name was Ashuma. The name of the Najashi with a Sad and a Ha. Ashuma. This is what we have narrated. And by the way, the grave of Najashi, of Ashuma, is still well known to this day. And some of my friends have visited it. I have not gone to that land, but some of my friends have visited. They said this is well known. The grave of Najashi is well known in the land of Abyssinia. So they sent 2 delegates, Amr ibn al-As and another person. Scholars have differed who that second person was. Amr ibn al-As, for those of you who know who he is, you know who he is. For those who don't know who he is, he was a very intelligent and shrewd politician. And when he accepted Islam, he retained that know-how of how to rule. And he became Muawiyah's main advisor, Amr ibn al-As. And of course he's a companion, so we say nothing but good about him. But at this stage, he's not a Muslim, obviously. And he was a very cunning person at this stage. Later on, Iman came, and so alhamdulillah, he accepted Islam. And as a Sahabi, we say nothing but good of him, but he had that mind of a politician. And he had that blood in him, he had that prestige of being a ruler in him. This is Amr ibn al-As here. So Amr ibn al-As was sent by the Quraysh because they know who he is. And they sent one more person with him. So they traveled all the way to Abyssinia. Now, Salama, who was to become our mother, Salama has left us many reports about life in Abyssinia and about the details. And alhamdulillah, we thank Allah for this because she's the main reporter of the events of Abyssinia. And Salama narrated, and this is in Sahih Bukhari, Salama narrated, when we landed in Abyssinia, this is the second hijrah. When we landed in Abyssinia, we were treated very hospitably by the Negus. He granted us security in our religion. He allowed us to worship Allah without persecution or any hindrance. In fact, we did not even hear one ridicule against us by the people. You know that when you're a minority in a majority, usually there's racial slurs, usually there's, look at what's happening in America now, right? You know, these people are taking our jobs, they're this, they're that. You know what's happening, you know, it's a common thing. So Salama is saying that we didn't even hear one word spoken against us. But then the Quraysh heard of our status, that we...
Do I want to talk about the situation in America? Do I really want to talk about that? I could talk about that, but nah, I'll save that for a different video. I already see the context. I don't think there's enough context to talk about that.
Have izzah. And so they plotted against us, and they decided to send 2 strong men. By strong, she meant people who would do their job, not physically strong. That 2 strong men. And they gave them precious gifts. They loaded them with gifts. What were the gifts of Mecca? Primarily leather skins. Mecca was known for a special type of camel leather, which was obviously, I mean, you're not going to get that type of leather in Abyssinia. And so Mecca was very well known for exporting. The main export of Mecca was that type of leather. The main export of Medina always was dates. So they sent all of these luxurious camel skins and many other gifts, and the 2 dignitaries, emissaries, arrived in Abyssinia. The first thing that they did was they went to all of the viziers, the ministers of Najashi, and they gave each of them expensive gifts and leather. Basically bribed them. They gave each of them expensive gifts and leather. And they said to them that we have in your midst a group of renegades and rebels, and we will speak to the Najashi tomorrow about their case, and we want you to hand them back to us and support us in this cause. So basically this is open bribery. Okay, this is open bribery. And so make sure that you help us out in this regard. When we give the negus his gifts, remember our gifts to you, because they're going to bribe the negus tomorrow. And subhanAllah, look at the hatred really of the Quraysh here, that they can't even bear to see the Muslims live in a foreign land. It affects them that they have so much freedom. So the next day they approached the negus and they said, some foolish youth from amongst our nation have emigrated to your country. They have left our religion and they have not embraced your religion. They've invented a new religion. They have left our religion and they have neither embraced your religion nor any of the other religions that we are aware of. And the leaders of our community have sent us to you in order that you hand these young foolish people back to us so that we can deal with them, because we are more knowledgeable of their faults than anybody else. And so they presented the negus with lots of fine gifts and incense, and they presented him with all of these leather goods. And subhanAllah, this is the reality of, in our times we call this lobbying basically, right? In our times we call this lobbying, that you go and you give politicians money, and when you give them money for their campaigns, for their funds, and this is perfectly legal in this land, as you know, it's perfectly legal. In fact, that's the way the system works, right? And subhanAllah, just as a comment here, it's not directly related to the seerah, it's a comment here. SubhanAllah, our religion is so perfect that our Prophet ﷺ, before all of this modern system came about, our Prophet ﷺ strictly forbade what we now call lobbying. Strictly, with the most harshest words. You're not allowed to give a public servant money. You're not allowed to. In our religion, I'm talking about in an Islamic state, we're not allowed to give the employees of the state any money at all. Their money comes from the treasury, from the state, because they're employees.
Yeah,
they have no right to get any money from you, because that is going to sway them from their job, right? This is basically the essence of bribery. And subhanAllah.
Yeah, exactly. That is the essence of bribery. Bro, lobbying, it's legalized bribery. Yo, as someone who lives in America, there is so much hypocritical things about living in the United States. And let me tell you, bro, this is one of them. America loves to say, oh, we're not like these countries that have all of this like corruption and oh, our democracy. Look at our democracy, bro. But you have legalized bribery. You have literal legalized bribery. And you know what's so funny about this, right? Is it's actually illegal. Yo, it's illegal to directly give a politician money to like be like, hey, vote for me. Vote for me, bro. I'll pay you if you vote for me. That's illegal. That's officially illegal, right? But then it's like, oh wait, there's lobbying guys. Oh, this is a bribery. No, it's just swaying. You're just trying to sway them so that they just so happen to promote something that, you know, you want to be promoted so that you could get more like votes, more attention on it. It's ridiculous how that logic works, because I'm like, this is literally just another fancy, more complicated way of saying bribery. This is why I said in my history in Islam reaction, I was like, okay, this kind of, you could really argue that based on what was said there, this is just kind of another fancier, more complicated way of slavery. Because there's so many things where it's like, no, this is not it, guys. This is not this thing that you're thinking it is. But then you look at it and you're like, it is. It's just more sophisticated. It's just not directly doing it or saying it. A lot of things are like that, bro. That's why I said what I said. That's a perfect time to bring that up. Why I came to that conclusion at the end of the video. I was like, okay, yeah, this just seems like another form of slavery, but probably the best form of slavery, right? Like the absolute best. You probably can't get better than that. Although I could, like, and will say, like, you could definitely say at the same time this technically isn't slavery as well. I see both sides, to be honest, whenever it comes regarding that. But back to America's hypocrisy. America's hypocrisy, guys. I need to talk more about America's hypocrisy because a lot of you people do not live in America, and honestly, I really gotta talk more about that. Like half of my life was in America, so I need to talk about that more. You hear me talking about my personal experience, but I need to talk about the American experience, the BS, the nonsense here, so much more. I mean, I do. Of course, when it's relevant, of course. But now that I think about it, it's like, yo, definitely gotta bring that up. And now is a perfect time for, this is definitely a good time to bring that up. Because America loves to promote to the whole world, oh, we are freedom, we are democracy. Bro, none of that is true. That's all BS. Well, I do talk about America and how shit it is living here on my other videos like Russia. When I talk about my Russia reactions, I always talk about what was going on here, all that stuff. But like on my Islam videos, I don't really be talking much about that. But I'm like, I probably should when the time calls for it and when the context calls for it now. But there's so many things about America that y'all don't really understand, that if you really had to come here and be like, you'll be like, what the hell? You'll be like, what the heck?
In this land, this is not called bribery, it's called lobbying. It's completely legit, even though, and this is the irony here, if you pay them money directly to their pocket, this is bribery. But if you pay to their campaign, this is, or you pay something else, this is lobbying. And they just have their ways around it. You all know the famous hadith of the Prophet that he appointed somebody to go collect zakat, right? And the zakat collector came back, and he said, all of this is for you, and I was given a gift of something small. This is my gift, right? This is my lobbying I got. The Prophet ﷺ became so enraged that he stood up and he called the people to come to the masjid, and he gave a khutbah in the middle of the day, not on Friday. He gave a khutbah about this, and he said, what is wrong with some of you? He didn't mention the person because he never did that. What is wrong with some of you that we appoint him to do a job and we pay his salary, and then he comes back and he says, this is for you and this gift is for me? And then the Prophet said something that is very, very blunt, but it shows how angry he was. Why didn't this man sit in his mother's house and see if a gift would then come to him? This is wallahi the essence of Islamic political science. Why didn't he sit in his house and then see if somebody would give him a gift, right? You have no right for the public's money. You're getting paid to do your job, do it. You're not getting paid to take the people's gifts and take a cut from them, right? But subhanAllah, the way that other systems work, it's a completely different system, and that's why money talks in this part of the world. And that's why if you have money, you will be able to get things passed, even at the highest levels of political power. And if you don't have money, even if the truth is on your side, and so the Quraysh know this tactic very well, and they're basically greasing the hands of Najashi and all of the people there.
It's like that in America still, by the way. You need money in America. America is such a terrible place to live in. It's like, if you don't have money, you are screwed. Money. That's how corrupt this country is. It's all about money. I'm not even kidding. That's what every American says. It's like, yeah, you could truly experience America, but you just need to have money. That is so damn true. Oh my God.
Notice here, they are frightening the Najashi by religious differences, political differences, social differences, and perhaps even some scholars say economic bribery and differences. Religious differences, the Najashi and his followers are all Christian. So they come and they say, these guys are religious fanatics. They're neither our religion nor yours, they're a cult. Social differences, they say they have broken away from the elders. They're a bunch of youngsters. They're just dismissing them. Economic differences, well, perhaps not differences, but they're attempting to bribe. And some scholars try to say that, and Allah knows how true this is, that there was also insinuation that the economic treaties between Abyssinia and Mecca would be weakened. And Allah knows how true this is. Political as well, that these are a group of strangers. We don't know what's going to happen. We can control them, send them back to us. And every government in power is scared of unknowns. Every government is scared of unknowns. And so they're trying to frighten Najashi religiously, socially, politically, culturally. These guys are all weirdos. And to this day, that's the common tactic. That these people, we don't know what they are and who they are. So when they finished their petition, the vizier stood up. They've been bribed. And they said, "O our ruler, verily what they have said makes complete sense. These are strangers in our land. We don't know anything about them. Return them back to their people. Let them deal with their affairs." SubhanAllah, money talks. right? They were bribed and they listened to the bribe. So the viziers, all of them that had been bribed, stood up and agreed with the two Qurayshis. Najashi said, "No, by Allah, I cannot just hand them back after they have chosen my land." Now remember, when they entered Abyssinia, even though the books don't mention this, but it must have happened, they must have sent a petition to Najashi asking permission to live, because there's no other way you can live in that land. And Najashi must have granted that petition, even though the books of Seerah don't explicitly write it out, but it's understood. There's no other way. So Najashi is aware what's happening, that there's a group here from Mecca. So he said, "These people have chosen me over all the other lands they could have chosen, and they ask for my protection. The least that I can do is to listen to their side of the story." SubhanAllah, look, he's a king, he doesn't need to listen to 80 people, right? But what did the Prophet say? Malikun adil. Didn't he say that? He's a just king. And a just king will listen to both sides and decide what is right and wrong, did not decide what is in his power or what is in his benefit. So he said, "I will not return them back until I listen to them." He didn't say, "I'm not going to return them back." He said, "Let me see what they have to say, and then we'll make up our minds." I can't just, and subhanAllah, look at this. I mean, this is way before we have modern law. Najashi has common sense, that you have to listen to both sides of the story. And so Najashi says that we need to listen to their side. And this shows us how true the Prophet ﷺ was when he said he is a just king. And it also shows us that when Allah is on your side, Allah will plot and plan no matter what the others plot and plan. وَمَكَرُوا وَمَكَرَ اللَّهُ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرُ الْمَاكِرِينَ. So the Negus sent a messenger. Najashi sent a messenger to Jafar.
The what? Send the what? What did you just say there? the what? It sounded like you said the niggas. It sounded like you said the niggas. The niggas said the messenger. Oh my God, that's funny.
Abi Talib. And he said, "Come all of you to the palace tomorrow and explain to us why your people are opposed to you." Now, they had never seen the Najashi. Najashi is the king, right? They had never had any direct contact with him. Now they're being told, the emperor himself wants to meet you. Come to the palace, all of you. And so they became frightened, which is only natural. And they said, "What are we going to say? What are we going to do?" And so Ja'far said, "We will only say what our Prophet ﷺ told us to say, and we're not going to change the truth no matter what happens. I will speak the truth." And it shows that when Muslims stand up for the truth, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect them and stand up for them. So when they arrived at the palace, they found the Negus surrounded by his advisors, by his, the Arabic word is batariqa, and batariqa actually has a Latin original, which was then made into English, which is patriarch. The word patriarch is from batariqa, it's the same thing. So the patriarchs are basically the senior figures of the religion. Right, they are the ministers. So he was surrounded by the viziers and the patriarchs. This is an official meeting. All the congressmen and senators are present, if you like. They all come to the palace. And you have Amr ibn al-As and you have his companion on one side, and you have Ja'far ibn Abi Talib and the delegation of the Muslims on the other side. Now Amr ibn al-As entered first, and him and his companion, as was the custom of the Najashi, they prostrated in front of him. Because as with most emperors, even the Roman emperor, the Persian emperor, the Abyssinian emperor, people always prostrated in front of the king. This was the common practice of all kings of the time. And I mean, these people are pagans. If they're prostrating to rocks and stones, prostrating to a living being makes more sense than prostrating to rocks and stones. They don't mind, who cares? It's all the same to them. So they prostrated in front of Najashi. Ja'far ibn Abi Talib entered, and he walked in erect, firm, and he did not lower his head one.
Huh? What the fuck? Yo.
I mean, these people are pagans. If they're prostrating to rocks and stones, prostrating to a living being makes more sense than prostrating to rocks and stones. They don't mind, who cares? It's all the same to them. So they prostrated in front of Najashi. Ja'far ibn Abi Talib entered, and he walked in erect, firm, and
Oh my God. Yo, I tried not to laugh my ass off on camera, but what? Yo, oh my God. Oh my God. Yo, it's just too many things funny about this shit. He says it so confidently. his tone when he says that sentence, the sentence itself is just like, what? What? Oh my god, this is just, bro. Lord have mercy on me.
He did not lower his head 1 inch. The minister said, how dare you walk in without prostrating to the Najashi? And subhanallah, this was at a time where their life hangs in the balance. Their future in Abyssinia hangs in the balance. But they have a principle. And that principle is, we cannot worship other than Allah, and we cannot bow our heads to other than Allah. This is not issue of compromise here. We can't change that. And they're coming at a state of weakness. This is not a state of strength, right? But they're not going to compromise their iman. And so Ja'far says, our Prophet ﷺ has told us that we can only prostrate to our Lord. This is our religion. We can only prostrate to our Lord. And so Najashi says, and obviously all of this is through a translator because they couldn't speak Abyssinian and he could not speak Arabic. Najashi says, tell me, what is this religion of yours that you have now invented? Now you're showing me this religion by not prostrating. What is this new religion that you have invented? And what is the matter that you have forsaken the religion of your people and you haven't embraced my religion, nor have you embraced the other religions on earth? Right? If you had become Christian, we understand. If you become Jew, there are people that are Jews. But how about this new religion? What is it? And so Ja'far gave that eloquent response that all of you have read and have heard so many times. It is wallahi the pinnacle of eloquence, and it shows us why the Prophet ﷺ chose Ja'far to be the leader. Because to be a leader, you need to have a personality, and you need to have eloquence. Without this, you really cannot be a leader. And Ja'far had both, and that's why Ja'far marches in firm. He's not going to bow his head down. Had it been others, maybe they would have collapsed under the pressure. Not Ja'far. And when he was sincere to his faith, that sincerity automatically brings about respect. And you know, the fact of the matter, brothers and sisters, when you stand up for what you believe, even if your opponent doesn't agree with you, they will, in some sense, even if they hate your guts, they must respect you for being firm to your principles. This is just a fact of human life. It doesn't matter whether they agree or disagree. They could hate you more for being so stubborn, but one part of them will respect. And this is what Ja'far is basically doing. He's staying firm to his religion. So Ja'far responds, and you all know this beautiful passage which really should be read many times and memorized. I'll just narrate it, and it's something that we have read since we were kids. Your Highness, we used to be a nation steeped in Jahiliyyah, and we would worship idols. And we would eat this dead meat. If an animal dies, we'll eat it. Now, of course, the people of Abyssinia are Christians, right? And they have some sense of ethics and morality. And they have some civilization. They have structure, they have buildings, they have society, they have morals. Makkah, as we said over and over again, really and truly was just completely backward. And it's something many Muslims doesn't click for them. Uneducated, backward people, they have no clue what is civilization. So Ja'far is trying to explain.
They're primitive. That's the word they're looking for.
We were basically, we're living in Jahiliyyah. That's exactly the word he uses. We were living in Jahiliyyah, and we used to perform fahisha. We didn't have a sense of right and wrong. Fahisha.
We were kangs and shit. Yo, bruh. Yeah.
It means sexual immorality. We didn't have laws. We just go do zina. It's not something we had ethics to do. And we would break the ties of kinship and treat our neighbors in contempt. The strong amongst us would eat up and devour the weak. It was all about who was the stronger one. And we remained in this state until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent a messenger to us. Now, again, he's very wise here, because the Negus knows what is a messenger. The Quraysh had never seen a messenger. It's not in their culture. The Negus, as a Christian, he knows very well what a messenger is, right? And the whole speech of Ja'far shows that he understands the psychology of Negus. And he shows how to give da'wah. So he says, Allah.
Yo, I know y'all probably looking at me, bro. Y'all probably like, why am I grinning, bro? It's what he said earlier. That still has me grinning, bro. I'm not even gonna lie to you.
Allah sent us a messenger. This messenger was known to us. He's from our community. We know his house and his lineage. And we know his truthfulness. And he never spoke one lie in his life. And he invited us to believe in one God alone. This is the religion of Christianity and Judaism, monotheism. And to leave idol worship. And he told us to abandon the ways of our forefathers.
Okay. Okay, yo, let me talk about this shit here, actually, low-key. So a lot of Muslims were saying, like, okay, Jesus is another God. And this is, like, annoying the living hell out of me. Bro. But looking into more on Jesus, and if you actually properly watch my videos, cough cough, because a lot of niggas don't properly watch my videos, don't let all the videos play through. You want to skip parts, then hear out of context shit, then you want to bitch about it in my comments. Cough cough. Anyways, so if you properly watch my videos all the way through, you actually even heard me recently say, quote, I don't understand the Trinity. Like, I just found out new information on the Trinity, and I do not understand the Trinity. I don't understand it. I don't. It's like, I thought Jesus was created, but then I'm like, hold on a second. Then I'm hearing like, no, Jesus was not created. Jesus was eternal. I'm like, what? Like, Jesus was always around with God. So I'm like, wait, there's not like another God then? But then I'm like, because Christianity views this shit as like, you know, the Father and the Son are not the same, but they have the same essence. But it's like, okay, if they have the same essence, it's like, hold on a second. Then that's when I started to realize, I'm like, okay, now I'm starting to understand why a lot of Muslims were saying that this is basically polytheism, what Christianity is practicing. That made some, because like looking at this, right? He has the same essence, both Jesus, like the Son and the Father, right? The thing with that essence, I'm not going to talk too much about Jesus though. It's like this could be interpreted in so many different ways. And one of those ways could be just, yeah, polytheism. Right? It's like, and that's where my whole logic of the Trinity really kind of starts to, I start to get confused by it, because it's like, if Jesus was always around, he wasn't even created, then, I mean, but no, Jesus is divine. Then it's like, because Christians believe that Jesus is divine. It's like, wait, you believe that they're not, okay, you believe that they share the same essence, but they're not the same people, the Father, Son, and you believe that the Son is also divine, like God. So you're basically saying like Jesus is another God, is that is equal to God. You see the problem with that? That's where I was like, oh shit. I was like, oh. I was like trying to make sense of this shit. I'm just like, I honestly, I was like, based on the current information that because of course, I don't know everything. Information is constantly, my information is constantly changing my thought process and how I view certain realities and all that stuff. Of course, it's evolving, right? So based on my current information, I'm like, what the? I'm like, this is not adding up. It's not adding up. I know all the Muslims that are watching this video, they're screaming, jumping up from their seats, cheering in joy, screaming, Allah Akbar, Wahali. What else do they say when they're happy? I don't even know. Probably at that statement that I just said. All the Muslim women are probably screaming in joy to, oh my God, Ultra Giga Tyrone might convert to Islam. Good for me, I bet. Yo, I swear to God, bro. I love making jokes. I gotta make more jokes on these videos, bro. And like, I was like one of my channel members who I was talking to earlier today, he was like, bro, your last video was like so funny as shit. And I'm like, I gotta put more humor. Because I'm a very jokey fella off camera. I'm a very type of person where I like to joke about whatever. I just like to joke about anything. Because I don't want to be all serious and stuff. That's very depressing. So I just try to make jokes of things like all the time. Just sarcasm, nothing serious. And I'm like, yo, I gotta do that shit more. I need to put that part of my personality on camera more. I really got to. I'm like, why have I not been doing that shit more? This would make my content so much more better, so much more enjoyable, and just so much, just overall, just like me, so supreme, just so much more supreme. It's already good, but you know, it's just, you know, it'll be incomprehensible afterwards, right? It's like me. 70%. You're only seeing 70% of my looks. But there's still more to be seen, right? Oh my, I bro, the sarcasm. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. Like, I gotta be just more sarcastic because I'm like a very sarcastic person. But on camera, I'm just like, should I be sarcastic? No, I should be more like educated and talk about the political state of the world, bro. But then I'm like, nah, I need to be more jokey.
And to leave the worship of stones and statues. And he commanded us to be true when we speak, and to fulfill our promises, and to fulfill the ties of kinship. He told us to be good to our neighbors, and he commanded us to avoid all evils. He told us to not spill blood, to give true testimony.
But no, like, what I said about Jesus, though, like, I'm serious about that, though. Everything else, that was just, like, sarcasm.
He forbade us from eating the property of orphans. He forbade us from accusing others of adultery. And he commanded us to worship Allah alone without associating anything with him. He told us to pray and to fast and to give charity. So we believed in him, and we followed him, and we had faith in him. And we worshipped Allah alone, and we gave up worshipping idols. And we forbade upon ourselves everything that he told us to forbade. And we made permissible all that he allowed for us. But our people opposed us, and they showed hatred towards us, and they tortured us, and they punished us, and they tried to force us back into idol worship. And they were unjust to us, and they made life miserable, and they prevented us from being who we were. So when they did this, we emigrated to your land, and we chose you above all other rulers, and we wished to come under your generosity and hospitality, and we put our trust in you that we would not be shown injustice in your land, O exalted highness. Now, the whole speech is, you couldn't have invented a better one if you had the imagination and the time to do so. And he did it on the spur of the moment, right? He appeals to the emotions, the justice, the generosity, the common sense, the religion of the Negus. He puts instantaneously himself in the positive and the two emissaries in the negative. In a 5-minute speech, the whole table has turned. Even the Arabic is eloquent. And this shows us why the Prophet ﷺ chose Ja'far ibn Abi Talib. And again, the point of praising Najashi and praising the intelligence and wisdom of Najashi, subhanAllah, it shows you need to appeal to the court of Najashi. And so this speech swayed Najashi, and it moved him. And he said to the Muslims, do you have any revelation that this Prophet says he has? Do you have any speech that he says that Allah gave to him? So Ja'far said, yes, I do. And so he said, recite it for me. And so Ja'far ibn Abi Talib recited the beginning few pages of Surah Maryam. And even in this, of course, I mean, it's obvious the choice here. Could have chosen a million surahs. Well, I'm not a million, but you get my point. Could have chosen so many surahs. But he chose the one surah that talks about the virgin birth, talks about Mary, talks about Jesus. Beautiful. And again, can you imagine the voice of Ja'far booming in the halls of Najashi, reciting Quran?
What does Islam say about John the Baptist? Because Saqib, I remember Saqib, remember, right? The gentleman who made me watch this series. I remember Saqib mentioning that John the Baptist had a miracle birth, and he was telling me if I remember, I know he was the one who said John the Baptist had a miracle birth as well. But I forgot what the heck we were talking about. I think he said that in the comment. Yeah. in one of my like historical Jesus reaction videos. I'm trying to remember that comment. What video that was on? Like a year ago, like 10 months ago. Yeah. My brain is trying to yeah. 10. So you mentioned John the Baptist had a miracle birth, but even Christians don't know this. So what does the Quran say regarding that? I'm going to read the comments for that.
On in that beautiful melodious voice, all of the priests and ministers, all of the elite people are hushed and humbled, and the walls of the palace are reverberating with that tilawa, which must have gone on for at least 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Do the math, as I say. 3.5 pages of Surah Maryam would be the story of Jesus, right? And he's reciting all of it. It's not just a 1-minute thing here. Imagine, again, put yourself in that shoes for 15 minutes. Beautiful tilawa. And obviously, it is said, Ibn Ishaq himself says this, that even the Batariqa, even the patriarchs, without even understanding what was being recited, they were moved to tears. I mean, this is the Quran. And we believe the Quran has this impact. And so even the patriarchs were moved to tears. And Najashi himself began to cry. When it was translated to him, he too began to cry. And then he said, I swear by God, this recitation, this tilawa, and the messages of Moses and Jesus have sprung forth from the same fountain. This is the same source. And he spoke to the two emissaries and said, go away from me, because I'm not going to hand these people over to you, and I'm not even going to think about it, basically. Don't even think about handing these people back. So Amr ibn al-As and his companion exited in humiliation, and as they were leaving, Amr whispered over to his companion and said, don't give up yet. I have one final trick. Tomorrow, I will come back and bring one final trick out of my hat. His companion said, now his companion, some people say it was Abdullah ibn Abi Rabi'ah, others say it was his cousin Umar ibn al-Walid. Allahu a'lam who it was. There's a little bit of a difference who the companion was. His companion was the more gentle of the two, and his companion said, leave it, ya Amr. Khalas, leave it. Yani we tried, we failed.
Bro, I do not know why, but for some reason, my ADHD is just really... It's really just... Like, I'm listening, trust me, I'm listening, y'all. But it's like, I don't know, I'm like really stimulated right now. Like, I just have days where I'm like super stimulated. I'm just like moving my body around just randomly. You guys might be watching me and be like, what the fuck is this nigga doing right now? You know, like when you're in public and you like see that kid who's obviously like, you know, autistic. You know, that's a habit that a lot of autistic kids, you know, kids that are on the spectrum, they do. They're always like moving around in such a bizarre way. They're always like, yeah, it's... So yeah, you'll get used to it, guys. Don't worry. Although it's probably weirder to see a ultra Giga Chad genetic miracle like being like that.
Because look, even if we don't agree with them, in the end they are our relatives. I mean, realize this is your cousin, your brothers, your uncles, your nephews. They are our relatives. I mean, leave it alone from now. But this is Amr ibn al-As, and at this time he's not a Muslim. So Amr said that no, one more attempt, just wait tomorrow. So the next day they sought permission again, and the Niga said, what do you want? We already decided, and you're not going to get them back. And so Amr said that, oh holy emperor, we forgot to mention to you one thing, that they say something blasphemous about the God that you worship, Jesus Christ. They didn't tell you that bit. Go ask them what they believe about Jesus Christ. Now, what is blasphemous? He's not the Son of God, right? This is blasphemous because it's not Christianity. And so Najashi is now interested, like, what is this? So Najashi sent the emissary again on the next day and said, come immediately to the palace. Come immediately to the palace. We're waiting for you now. We want to know what your position is on Jesus Christ. At this, the Sahaba were struck with terror much more than they were on the day before. Because now, this is like, come right now. And they know this is now Amr's doing, because what else is going to happen now, you know? And so, once again, they say, what are we going to say, Ya Ja'far? And so Ja'far said, we will say exactly as what the Prophet ﷺ told us to say. And that is that Jesus Christ is the Abd of Allah. He is the servant of Allah, and He is the Rasulullah, and He is the Ruhullah. And He is born of the Virgin Mary. and we will not change this for them. SubhanAllah, He's not going to change what they believe just because He wants to please Najashi. And this is the way of the believer. Because they stood up for the truth, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected them. And they went to the emperor again. And by the way, before we move on to the story itself, subhanAllah, one of the most important lessons we learned from this whole story is that the Sahaba used the system of the time to fight the oppression of the time. It's not an Islamic state, is it?
That's interesting. God protected them for allegedly saying the truth. That's very interesting. Very interesting. Hold on a second. I need to do some background research on this. These people in Abyssinia and the whole like confrontation about who do you think Jesus is. This is I could talk about Jesus right now, but I don't really think I will talk about Jesus right now. I'm really saving that for just a pure dedicated video just purely on Jesus, because like I said before, I mean, I was slightly talking about my updated view on Jesus and the Trinity earlier, but there is still some extra stuff I didn't put in. I'm saving that for like a dedicated video when I react to that's just on Jesus. You guys want to go and send me a video on Jesus where if you really want to hear it, like, okay, like you're waiting for a video on Jesus, just go send me a video on Jesus so that I can talk about it there. Simple as that, right? I mean, that's why my channel membership exists, right? You binge watch my stuff a lot. I have a Patreon too. I gotta link my Patreon, but I'm just like so lazy. And you know, money is great, but I'm just not really money hungry enough to where I would just promote my Patreon a lot. It's like, to me, it's like, you know, genuine people will eventually come along. If they really care a lot about my content, they really like my content a lot, they'll just go out of their way to, you know, if they can't be a member, they'll go out of their way to be the Patreon. I've even had people go out of their way and, you know, donate me through PayPal instead. It's like, I don't, maybe I should promote it more because, again, there are benefits. And actually, I do have to do a member only video because there's some updates I really need to update members, because members are not all in my blasted Discord server. So I'm like, my God, whenever I do updates, I gotta do these like member only videos stating you guys about updates. Talking to channel members here. Guys, I'm sleepy. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm like really sleepy. Sitting down here for this long period of time, oh my God, especially with these bright lights. You know, if you sit there in front of bright lights, right, and like just all these like screens and shit, your eyes just get so blasted sleepy. Ugh. Do I even still look pretty? I'm very surprised. I still look pretty. Wow.
Right? Najashi's not a Muslim. Not now, he's not. And they are being charged, if you like, in a manner of the system of Najashi. And I say this because we have some people still left. You know, honestly, pre-9/11, there were much more. Post-9/11, most of these scholars have had to wake up and smell the coffee. And I speak as being a part of that group that used to say similar things many, many years ago. This ultra-conservative vision of Islam that's not going to be realistic or practical. There are still people who say, you're not allowed to be a part of the system. You're not allowed to be a part of the democratic process. You're not allowed to do this and that. There's still some minority of scholars who say this. Before, for those of you who were active in the past, this used to be much more common. And it was very common to hear ask the fatwa, is it halal or haram to vote, right? Now here we find that Ja'far ibn Abi Talib...
What the? What? Whoa, hold on. What is that all about? Huh? I've never heard of this. Whoa. What do you mean? Wait, they were telling them that Muslims were not supposed to vote? Huh? I need more context here.
Using the system of the land. to fight against oppression and to fight for his freedom, is he not, right? And nobody is saying, oh, hold on a sec, the ways of Najashi are the ways of kufr. These are democracy or this. No, you have no choice.
Democracy.
This is the way you need to fight for the truth. And you have to use the resources given to you. And the land, whatever system it has, you use it. And Ja'far had no qualms using the system. So we will do the same thing in this land. We will fight against oppression through the courts, through the media, through the public pressure. The same opportunities that everybody has, we too have them. And we must do so like Ja'far ibn Abi Talib did. Ja'far used his opportunities, we need to use our opportunities. And therefore, Ja'far ibn Abi Talib said that we're not going to change the truth. And so they come back to the Najashi, and Najashi is a bit irritated. And he asks them, what is this that I have heard, that you have a blasphemous opinion about Jesus Christ? So Ja'far said, Your Royal Highness, we say exactly what our Prophet said. Now notice he said this phrase multiple times. And this also shows us that he's trying to impress upon the Najashi, I am remaining firm to my principles. This is what I believe. And he's quoting what is an evidence for him, and Najashi should understand that it is an evidence for him. And we should also not be embarrassed to say the same thing. Why do your women wear hijab? Because our God told them to do so. Why do you pray 5 times a day? Because our book tells us to do so. This is an evidence that even if you don't agree with the book, you must understand this is a legitimate evidence for us. Correct? Right? It's nothing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's how I view. Yeah, that's how I view it. You know, I'm like, yeah, you guys have your. This goes into what I mean by bro. Like, you believe in God, but you just have different interpretations on how to believe in God. But you still believe in God. It's okay. That's your opinion. That's your interpretation. For you, that's evidence. Okay. I don't... Okay, bro. It doesn't matter anyways, because... Bro, like, God himself literally said he is going to clarify. He is going to clarify everything in the end. Anyways, my God. Why do you people not seem to understand that you people are so obsessed with you know, I was talking to someone about this. I was like, when I was talking to them, and they're watching this video right now. But, you know, I told them, I'm going to repeat what I told them. I was like, bro, you, like, this bickering, because this is what it is. Bickering. My God, this bickering among Muslims and Christians, literal brothers in faith, mind you. This is how I view it. Literal brothers in faith. Because that's literally what it is, bro. It's like, bro, you're literally, bro, Christianity, Islam, brothers. Y'all stem from the same fucking starting point. Just like how your damn brother or sister started from one starting point, aka your parents. Like, yes, you have your differences, but like, obviously you're gonna have your similarities, whatever. Anyways, so these like brothers in faith, right, bickering amongst each other, talking about how to reach the finish line, right? The finish line is understanding that there's one God, no God like him, and believing in God, right? And, you know, that's the whole point of all this shit from Islam and Christianity. Believe in God and understand there's one God, no other God like him. That's it. And having faith. Both Muslims and Christians are arguing about, because that's what the Quran is. The Quran is a guidance so that you reach that finish line of believing in God and understanding there's one true God, right? Okay. It's the same shit in Christianity. That's what the Bible is too. A book to reach that finish line of believing in God, understanding there's one God, no other God like him. Let me repeat that slowly. Believing God, understanding there's one God and no other God like him. That's what both of these books are for. You're reaching the same fucking endpoint by different ways, bruh. But so many Muslims and so many Christians are bickering about how to reach to that endpoint when you're already at that endpoint. You see what I'm saying? Why are you bickering amongst each other about how to reach that end point when you're already at that end point. It shouldn't matter. It should not matter. And if you read both the Bible and the Quran, it literally says that God will have mercy on those whom He will. God is a merciful fucking God. My goodness. I said it earlier in the video, reminding people, even the Quran says that the Abrahamic faiths should stay worshiping. It encourages them to don't leave their fucking faiths and to fucking stay worshiping God the way how they're already fucking worshiping God. So why are niggas arguing about this shit? Again, let me repeat myself. You're arguing about how to get to the finish line when you're both at the finish line. Please think about this shit. Please sit down and think about this shit. Oh my God. Yo, let me tell y'all something, right? I had a Muslim best friend. Yes, I did. Most people don't know that. I had a Muslim best friend, okay? She and I, we never fucking argued about this shit. We never argued about religion. And you know what's funny? Me and her, we got into a lot of arguments. We got into a lot of arguments, actually. But we never argued about this. We never argued about religion at all. I will never, like, bro. I'll never forget, like, when I first met her. And it was like, okay. I'm like, oh, you're a Muslim. She was like the first Muslim where, like, first ever Muslim that I actually sat down with and I properly talked to. Before then, never really interacted with a Muslim before, ever. First ever Muslim where, you know, it was like, okay, we sat down, we talked, blah, blah, blah. And we really just, like, you know, first Muslim where I really got to know. To the point where, in fact, like, probably... And she's still one of the only few people who properly know me. Properly. Know, like, every single aspect about me, right? But anyway, so yeah, that's interesting. It's funny. Whenever I, like, tell people about that shit, people just, like, automatically assume, oh my God, you guys had something sexual between... No. It was fucking platonic. Anyways, but yeah, when I first, like, met her, I didn't know shit about Islam. Guys, you don't understand. I did not know anything because I didn't interact with Muslims, didn't interact with any Islamic content. I didn't even have my YouTube channel at this point. I didn't know anything. So when I asked her, I was like, okay. I'm like, what is Islam? All I heard about Islam is that it's super similar to Christianity. I'm like, isn't Islam just like another version of Christianity? Right? Like, aren't these religions essentially like kind of the same? And then she explained, like, well, the difference between that is Jesus. The main point really is, like, Jesus. I'm like, okay, so how you believe in Jesus? And then she was explaining, like, oh yeah, we believe that he's a prophet, but he wasn't the son of God. He wasn't divine. And, you know, we believe that he wasn't crucified. I'm like, oh. I'm like, why do you think he wasn't crucified? Like, how are you so certain that he wasn't crucified? Because it was like, you know, you even heard me talk about this in my videos, guys. Like, everyone saw him got crucified. It was like, so I'm like, how do you know? Like, what's the proof? Because I was just curiously asking. And she was like, well, it just appeared like he was crucified, but no one, like, there is no solid proof, technically. That was her word. There is no solid proof, technically, that it was a fake. on the cross, but the Quran says so. I mean, the Quran is God's word, so it's like, well, that's that. So I'm like, okay, well, that's what you want to believe. I wasn't really like convinced by that, to be honest. At the time, I wasn't really convinced, but I was like, wait, so you're just believing something? What was going through my mind at that time was, okay, you believe something because a book say so. But I'm like, all right, but you don't really have like any concrete proof that it was a fake. But yet, all the witnesses, the soldiers who crucified him, they were all like, nope, this is a real man, real body, all that. Yeah, they carried his dead body. That was what was going through my head at the time. So I was like, but I didn't argue that shit. I was like, okay, but you believe in the same God, right? Well, that's what I answered. I was like, okay, but you still believe in the same God, right? I was just like, yeah, we believe in the same God as you guys. I'm like, oh, okay. Okay, I was like, okay, no biggie. You believe in the same God, right? No need to argue. You already believe in God, so I don't care. Okay, how you believe in God? I don't care. Doesn't matter. Okay, you don't want to believe in whatever way you don't want to believe in Jesus. Okay, cool. But you're already believing God, so it's like it doesn't even matter. And after that, we never really talked about Islam versus Christianity ever again. Guys, and we argued about like so many things. Okay, we got into a lot of fights, but not really that. Like, I remember we argued about, because she was Kosovar Albanian. She was Albanian from, what was it? Kosovo. And you know the whole controversy with Kosovo, whether or not if it's a part of Serbia or if it's not a part of Serbia. And my whole stance on that was, it is a part of Serbia. And she was like, yeah, no. She's like, no. What's interesting is I used to be on the side of Kosovo is not a part of Serbia. But then as I found more information, I was like, no, I changed perspectives. I switched sides. My whole like ideals on that change. And that's with me on so many things in my life. Is like I see new information, and obviously I changed my whole thought process and my ideals based on this new information being revealed on me. So, but I didn't know her before that period of time where I used to believe Kosovo was not a part of Serbia and Kosovo was, Albanian land. But anyways, if you understand how controversial that topic really is, like that's a big controversial issue. As like we argued about that a lot. Me and her, like argue for hours upon hours on end, bro. But we never argued about Christianity and Islam. Because me and her, we just looked at each other, we were like, okay, we believe in the same God? Okay, cool, great. That's it. Why can y'all not be like that? Like, and despite the arguments that we had, like our friendship was still strong. Like our friendship grew extremely deep, anyways. But anyhow, he said something here that I had to talk about. Let's replay it.
We will fight against oppression through the courts, through the media, through the public pressure. The same opportunities that everybody has, we too have them. And we must do so like Ja'far ibn Abi Talib did. Ja'far used his opportunities, we need to use our opportunities. And therefore, Ja'far ibn Abi Talib said that we're not going to change the truth. And so they come back to the Najashi, and Najashi is a bit irritated. And he asks them, what is this that I have heard that you have a blasphemous opinion about Jesus Christ? So Ja'far said, Your Royal Highness, that we're not going to change the truth. And so they come back to the Najashi, and Najashi is a bit irritated. And he asks them, what is this that I have heard that you have a blasphemous opinion about Jesus Christ? So Ja'far said, Your Royal Highness, we say exactly what our Prophet said. Now notice he said this phrase multiple times. And this also shows us that he's trying to impress upon the Najashi, I am remaining firm to my principles. This is what I believe. And he's quoting what is an evidence for him, and Najashi should understand that it is an evidence for him. And we should also not be embarrassed to say the same thing. Why do your women wear hijab? Because our God told them to do so. Why do you pray 5 times a day? Because our book tells us to do so. This is an evidence that even if you don't agree.
Okay, y'all. Okay, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. I had to replay, make sure, because I forgot what the hell I had to talk about. But I was talking about the other aspect I forgot. ADHD. Anyways, you see how it talks about how we pray like 5 times a day. We wear a hijab because the Quran tells us to. Let me give y'all my personal opinion, okay? I've been waiting to say this. Like I said, guys, there's a lot of shit I can talk about. I just wait for the context to call for it. No, this is a fucking story, but no. This is my own interpretation regarding the scriptures, both Quran and Bible. Although the Quran has a very interesting view on this, but I still think that this is relevant anyways. So you know how both scriptures give you a clear guidance of how you should be living your life, right? Just rules, literal rules that are there to benefit you. Many videos always talk about this that I react to on Islam, where it talks about these rules are there for the benefit of you. They're not there to restrict you, blah, 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 blah. So I'm like, okay. Because the Bible is like this too. The Bible, there's like rules on what you eat, what you shouldn't eat, blah, blah, blah. Like, no intercourse before marriage, obviously. Stuff like that that we are traditionally aware of, like limitation of alcohol, like don't drink too much, don't be a glutton, just stuff like that, right? Make y'all really understand what I'm trying to get at here. Hijab, a lot of people, in my personal opinion, I think that they kind of misunderstand what these rules are there for. Like, yeah, they're there for, to help you. But what I'm saying is this. I don't think, a lot of people think that you are required to rigidly follow these rules, right? Like, you must follow these rules. I don't really think so. Yeah, I know that's a bold statement to make, but hear me out. I don't really think you have to follow these rules, like, in a way that you think, because look at the context of why a lot of these rules are created. They are there to protect you. But it's like, okay, they're there for my benefit and to protect me. What if I don't need it? What if I'm capable enough on my own that I don't need this guide, right? It's like how you have like a guide trying to look for something around here, but I'll just make up something in my head. Let's say hypothetically you just get a part of a chair, right? But you know how to put together a chair. You order a new chair, right? Obviously it's going to come with a guide on how to set it up. I mean, this chair that I'm sitting on, I had to set it up and it had a guide like step by step, like do this in proper order. But it's like, what if you can just look at this and be like, oh, I don't need this guide. I already know how to set it up. And I can reach that same endpoint. I don't need that guide. I could do this in my own way and I can still achieve like the same results, right? I personally believe you could be like that regarding all of these like guides that are rules, but they're more like guides, to be honest, because they're there for your sake. So whenever I see stuff like you must wear a hijab, I'm like, I look at that as more of God is like recommending women to prevent the male gaze, wear a hijab. If you don't want unwanted attention, wear a hijab. But what if you're a woman and you know how to deal with unwanted male attention? You know how to avoid bad male attention. You see what I'm saying? It's like, why do I need this? I know how to deal with this in my own way anyways. I know how to, overcome this in my own way. I'm gonna achieve essentially the same result that I would achieve by wearing a hijab without wearing a hijab and just doing things my own way. It's like, as long as you know why these guides are there, which are rules, but they're more like guides, as long as you know why they're there, and a good example, right, is like sex before marriage. This is a good example, actually. Intercourse before marriage. A person said it perfectly. Not even me. It was like, you have all of these people who are essentially breaking all these rules in the scriptures, but when it comes with intercourse, it's like, I gotta be super strict. It's like, bro, get out of here with that shit, bro. No, I'm not saying to go throw yourself out there. No, what he said, and I agree with this, is intercourse is a way of expressing love. Okay, the way how I view intercourse before marriage, I don't see it as a strict, rigid rule. I see it more of a guide. Do not have intercourse before marriage, because if you have intercourse before marriage, you will fall into a lot of problems where you might go and just throw yourself out there, get a high body count, then you might end up getting STDs because you were indulging yourself too much. Your emotional, like, guys, there's so many studies that show what throwing yourself out and having just way too much intercourse when it's not like a committed person that you're with, that's the key. Just having like casual hookups, how damaging that is for you, especially women. It's really damaging for a woman when she's like throwing herself out there and having all of these hookups and having all of these high bodies, and a lot of studies show this, right? Like, for example, I hear a lot of men will say, with high body counts, will say, it gets to a point where it doesn't even, like, you're not really feeling anything. The feeling isn't really anything crazy. You kind of just get numb to it, and it's like, what the hell? That is insane, right? That type of shit. Now, let's say, right, so obviously it's like, yeah, don't have intercourse. Do it with someone who's your wife. Why? Because obviously you know that person, you love that person, you know, the idea is like you're gonna, you bond with that person, all that shit. So this isn't gonna make you run into problems, right? Let's say you're in a long-term relationship with someone, but they're not your wife, but you're still in this long-term relationship with this person. This is a very common thing where a person is in a long-term relationship with a person, but they're not married with them, but they're still very much committed. I'm like, okay, well, I think that's just fine to have intercourse. There is like, okay, you guys are very much committed. You're in a super duper long-term relationship. Clearly, you guys have a strong bond going on, very dedicated. Obviously, it's like, remember, guys, intercourse is just simply a way to express love. So it's like, what is so wrong when you're already in a long-term relationship, basically unofficially married, you could say, pretty much unofficially married at that point, right? It's like, what is so wrong at that point with just having intercourse, even though you're not married, but you're acting like you're married, right? You're doing everything like a marriage when you're in a long-term relationship, but you just haven't officially put that ring on the finger. It's like, okay, well, that's fine. To me, that's fine. There's nothing damaging about having intercourse with someone who's a long-term partner that you were years with, especially when you knew them for a long time beforehand, before you guys even got into that relationship. It's like, okay, well, you don't really need this guide, because remember what I'm saying, like, you know, a lot of this stuff is just a guide, pretty much. Like, you don't have to exactly follow that guide. It's like you're achieving the same result anyways. That's how I feel regarding, like, all of those, like, don't eat this. Like, what? I had someone in my comment look at me and was like, don't eat pork. I'm like, what? Pork doesn't even taste good anyways, but it's like, what? Or like Ramadan is another thing too. Like, Muslims do Ramadan. You know, Ramadan makes sense. I like the idea of Ramadan, but Ramadan is just a guide. It's literally like a guide. It's that, what if you could achieve the same results without having to go through Ramadan by whatever way you, I don't know, you discover? Why would you need to do Ramadan? Like I said, the guide is still there, but it's just a lot of cases in life, bro, where you don't have to follow that guide. I mean, even these videos that I react to on the Quran, it always says, yes, this book is here to act as a guide. God put this guide here because he's God and he's the one who created us and he knows us best, bro. So God created this guide here to guide us because he knows that this is what's best for us. Okay, so what if you figure out your own way? That's gonna give you, like, what's best for you. That's just like what the guide is gonna give you. You see what I'm saying? So that's my stance on that. Let's continue.
With the book, you must understand this is a legitimate evidence for us, correct? Right? There's nothing wrong with, and in fact, it's a watertight evidence in its own way, and I've spoken about this in other lectures that I've given. The best evidence that we can give to any non-Muslim is to say, because the Lord that I believe in, who created me, told me to do this, and that's why I do it. It's a watertight argument. You cannot attack this argument. You have to go back and say, well, I don't believe in that God. And that's the point. We say, yes, you don't. We do. It's a different religion. So the point being, he says, our Prophet told us.
Imagine being able to...
Jesus Christ is
I
the
return.
Abd and the Rasul, the Abdullah and Rasulullah and Kalimatullah that he gave to Maryam. Al-Batul al-Adhra, the virgin, the innocent, the chaste Maryam. And that he was a righteous prophet. Now, he stopped there. Notice, and this is a key point as well, that what he said was absolutely true. But he didn't go and be on the offensive and say, and we say that the Trinity is blasphemous, and we say that saying that Jesus Christ, the Son of God, is insulting, even though that's what the Quran says, right? But he didn't get there because, look, you don't need to go to that level yet. He's not hiding the truth, but he's telling it in a wise manner. And we do have some who really don't understand how to give da'wah. That, look, right now you just need to establish your credentials. He's not lying. Everything he says is positive, but he just stops before he gets to the point of saying, what you guys believe is blasphemous in our religion. There's no need to say that, right? He says what he believes, and Najashi gets the point. You don't think he's the son of God, basically, because he doesn't say that. And even in this is wisdom. That, and I've said this many times before, we're never allowed to lie, but there's also a manner of speaking, and an audience in which we speak in, and a methodology and a wording, and Ja'far uses the appropriate word.
He's just basically saying, sugarcoat what you're saying. Simple as that. Sugarcoat what you're saying.
The truth. Now it comes out, and we can read into the lines here, that the Negus was not in fact a believer in the Trinity. And he didn't believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. And in this he resembled Heraclius, his contemporary and colleague, the Emperor of Rome. In that, once upon a time politicians were educated. Those were fairy tales of the past. They no longer exist in our times. You know, we must believe that once upon a time politicians used to be smart people. That was a time long gone. So politicians actually were intellectuals. And both the Najashi and Heraclius believed in versions of Christianity that their own priests did not believe. And so when Ja'far speaks the truth.
Wait, where you hear that about Heraclius? What? Where did you hear
Najashi
that
is
about
even more
Heraclius?
impressed, because this is what he himself has been believing all this time. And so he picks up a little branch that was in front of him, a twig, and he says, Wallahi,
I've never heard Heraclius believing. Guys, hold on a second. I mean, there's still Christian sects that are Christians, but they don't believe that Jesus was divine or the Son of God. Honestly, I'm starting to think he may have not been the Son of God like what I was taught. Maybe.
what you have just said does not exceed what Jesus Christ said by this much of a branch. In other words, your message is the message of Jesus Christ. He never said he's the Son of God. He never said that he's a third of a Trinity. And there are many Christians who secretly believe this or who know this, but then society is simply too much of a pressure upon them. And so when he says basically what Najashi himself believes, then Najashi now makes a final decision, and he turns to the emissaries and he says to Amr ibn al-As that, be gone from here and take all of your gifts back with you. I have no need for them. He returned the gifts, at least the day before he kept.
Something that's interesting, and I really need to like delve into this a lot, do a lot of research into this, is the Council of Nicaea. The Council of Nicaea was there to discuss Jesus' divinity. And who the heck was Jesus exactly? Now, what I find very interesting about this is, why do you need a council? Like, that always stood out to me when I first heard about the Council of Nicaea. I was like, wait, why do you need a council if you are so confident that Jesus is divine and Jesus was the Son of God? Like, guys, when you are so confident in something, why do you need to sit down, discuss it, you know, talk about who exactly he was? I didn't even know there was a Council of Nicaea until recently. I didn't even know. But when I heard about that, I was like, huh? Because, you know, my whole idea on that was like, yeah, it was more than obvious that Jesus was divine, Jesus was the Son of God, and, you know, Jesus came, showed that, boom, that's how Christianity came, boom, obviously, right? That was my perspective for a while. But when I heard about the Council of Nicaea, that's when I started putting, like, big question marks, like, why do you need to have a debate on something that should have been more than clear? That shouldn't need. So not just that, but it's like, okay, you're having a council on Jesus' divinity. Was he divine? Like, what was he? Who the heck was Jesus? What was he? Blah blah. So when I see that, I'm like, so there were a bunch of people that had a different idea on what they believed Jesus to be. Because if everyone is over here thinking like what I used to think, like, yeah, Jesus came, showed his divinity, boom, done. There's no need for a council. There's no need to come to a conclusion, discuss together, argue your points, blah, 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 all that shit. You know, there's no need for that. Everyone believes the same thing. Why would you need to discuss something like that when, you know, like, you all believe the same thing? But when I see this, I'm like, oh, so that means that it wasn't as universal as what I previously thought. There were like, I knew that like some Jews didn't believe, but no, I mean past beyond that point, bro. Because the people that was at the council wasn't, I mean, many of them weren't Jews, but they had a different idea on Jesus. That's why I'm like, oh, this council that happened, highlight something, a big discrepancy here. There were many differing opinions on Jesus. Not that universal, yeah, he's the Son of God view that I was accustomed to and I thought was widespread.
The gifts, right? Now to add insult to injury, right? I don't need your cheap bribes. Go return all of these gifts to them.
So yeah, I gotta
Setup
do
is
some
narrating
research
all of
into
this.
that.
She concludes by saying, the two emissaries left, humiliated, debased, and degraded. Khalas, that's like, they've lost everything. Having been returned the gifts that they had come laden with, all that they came with, they went back with. And this is really, it's a slap in the face because gifts are typically accepted, right? And the day before, had they left, the gifts would have been there.
I'm grateful for many things.
Every gift, even the minister's gifts, was returned. Nobody's allowed to take anything from them. And we remained in the land, receiving the best hospitality and the most neighborly treatment until we finally returned to the Prophet ﷺ in Mecca. A few more points, inshallah, we'll go for another 10 minutes and then stop for Isha because we need to finish the story of Najashi. Now, when Najashi said this, that he picked up the twig and he said, Jesus Christ never said anything more than this, rumors spread that Najashi has become a heretic. He has abandoned the religion of our forefathers. Najashi has become a heretic. And so the ministers, and you know how politicians are, I mean, there's always internal battles, and a lot of people, there's always inner struggles and inner cores. So another group began to speak against the Najashi privately. And they began to taint him that he's not Christian enough. And he has heretical beliefs. And there was a possibility of a coup d'etat. And Najashi is aware of what's happening. He has his own sympathizers telling him. And so one day, he decided to confront that batch of instigators. And he wrote on a parchment, in his own language, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. That I bear witness that, la ilaha illallah, and that Isa is the Ruhullah, and the Kalimatullah, and the Abdullah. He's a Christian, this is what he believes, right? And this is what we believe. And he put this parchment inside his robe. He's wearing all of this fine robe. He put it inside his robe. And then he calls these instigators and he brings them into his private chambers. And he says, what is your problem with me? What is the matter? Have I not been a good king to you? They said, yes. Have I not been a just ruler? They said, yes. Have I not improved the situation, this economically, whatever? And overall, everybody loved Najashi. Overall, he was one of the better kings. They said, yes. So he said, what is your problem with me? Come out with it. Tell me, what is your problem? And he knows because of his own sympathizers. So they finally come out and they say, you have abandoned our religion. And you have heretical beliefs. So he asked them, what do you say? What do you believe? And so they say, we believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, He's our Lord, He's our Savior, He's the third of the Trinity. It's basically Christianity. And so Najashi said, and I swear by Allah that this, and he pointed to the piece of paper which was on his heart, that this is exactly what I believe. And he left it at that. Now this is, of course, tawriyah, complete double meaning, completely, he said something which is true, right? But the way they understood it is completely different, right? I swear by Allah, this is what I believe. And by this he means what is in the parchment that is next to my heart, right? And so when he swore by Allah that this is what they believe, that he believes, the Christians were satisfied. Because of course what he had said before was, I agree with you, O Muslims, that Jesus Christ is not the Son of God, basically, right? And so when he said this, that internal struggle stopped. It is mentioned that before he had this meeting, he sent a messenger, secret messenger to the Muslims. And he said to them that I am having issues and problems, and it is possible that I will be killed soon. So this was a major issue, right? And if you hear news of my death, I have instructed one of my ships to be at such and such a place. As soon as you hear that I have been killed, go to that place, that ship will be yours with its captain. Go wherever you please. But he actually won the battle, and so that plan was not needed. But look at how much iman he had, and look at where he has thinking about the Muslims. And
I need to look into this. I need to look into this. I need to look into this whole story. This is interesting. After this video, do some background research into this whole event that he's telling here.
Bayhaqi narrates in his Sunan, in his Dala'il al-Nubuwah, that the Prophet ﷺ eventually wrote him a letter when he emigrated to Medina. The Prophet ﷺ wrote Najashi a letter and he invited him to Islam. And Najashi wrote back to the Prophet ﷺ saying that, I am a Muslim and I believe in you and I believe in all that you say, and if you command me, Ya Rasulullah, I will come right now to Medina and serve you. If you command me, I will come right now to Medina and serve you. So Najashi publicly, well not publicly, privately, to the Prophet ﷺ, said that he is a Muslim. And there's only, I have tried to look as much as I can in the stories of the Seerah, for the stories of Abyssinia, because the Muslims lived there for more than 10 years. For more than 10 years, the Muslims were in Abyssinia. In fact, for 12 years they were in Abyssinia. And unfortunately, we don't have very many stories. There's one more story mentioned about the Muslims of Abyssinia, and that is a story that involves a pretender to the throne. Not an internal struggle within the palace. No, another force, another Abyssinian royal family was struggling with the Najashi and trying to seek power in the land. And matters began to get bigger and bigger, and it was all heading towards a civil war. And Salama narrates that we began to be scared that Najashi would be defeated and an enemy, our enemy, or somebody else would be installed in his place. And we didn't know what to do. And we began making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help Najashi win and remain in power. And the situation finally reached the level that there was a civil war. There was a battle between the two sides. And so we had a meeting in which we said, what are we going to do? And so we said, who is going to find out what happens at the battle so that we hear before somebody else comes and tells us, right? In other words, let one of us go and spy on the battle, see who wins, and then if the other side wins, we need to get out of here. Right? So Zubayr ibn al-Awwam, another cousin of the Prophet ﷺ, volunteered. And Zubayr is a strong man. And so he said, I volunteer. He packed his stuff, he took some food and stuff, and he went. The battle was taking place, the books say, on the banks of the river Nile. The Nile goes all the way down into Abyssinia. As you know, it's not just in Egypt, it keeps on going all the way down into Africa. And so the battle was on the banks of the Nile. So Zubayr ibn al-Awwam camped on one side as far away as he could, and he waited to see who would win the battle. And Salama said, in the meantime, we were praying to Allah the most serious prayer, that, oh Allah, allow the Najashi to remain in power and give him tamkeen fil ard, give him authority in the earth. And Zubayr ibn Awam came back in a few days with a great smile on his face, and he said, Abshiru, rejoice that indeed Najashi has won the battle, and so he will remain in power. And this shows us as well that, of course, in this era, it's black and white. Najashi is a secret Muslim. The Muslims know this. Najashi will support them. But one important point here, Najashi and his contemporary were not fighting over Islam. This was not a jihad being fought. This was pure politics. Pure politics. And the Muslims sided with one over the other, emotionally. Right? Now, they couldn't get involved in any other way because they're not citizens of the land. This is not their war to be fought, right? This is not their battle.
We bought this property.
Let's extrapolate to 2011, soon to be 2012. There's nothing wrong when there's two parties in the land, one of whom is more sympathetic to Muslims, that you want that sympathetic party to win. And had the Abyssinian Muslims been in a position to help Najashi, do you think they would have not helped him? Right? Of course they would. And again, when you read the seerah, thinking about the modern world changes your whole perspective. It's a matter of survival. This is not just the American way, it is the Islamic way. That when you have an opportunity to defend your rights, to defend your freedoms, you must do so. Whether it's through the media, whether it's through campaigning, whether it's through public awareness, whatever it might be. But there is a party that is sympathetic to your needs. In this case, it's the Najashi. In our cases, we'll talk case by case basis, right? But for sure, one of the two parties in our era, they're like leapfrogs. Which one is going to be more Islamophobic? Every one of them says every Muslim must be, profiled in the airport. One of them running for president said this, as you know. Every Muslim should be profiled. All of them are racist against non-white people, as you know this. Even the one who's not white himself said that he wants a fence that's going to electrocute every single Mexican that dares to cross the border. This is down insanity, sheer stupidity. It is. Everybody knows this. Everybody's making fun of this. Do you know how much it's going to cost to build a fence to... Anyway, I'm going into my tangent here. But my point being, it shows how, bringing to reality, what is wrong? In fact, it is Islamic that you want a party that will be more sympathetic to you and your rights as a Muslim, right? That you make dua to Allah, that you facilitate the affairs, and more than dua. The Muslims of Abyssinia could not do anything more than dua because they're not citizens, right? They are foreigners, they're on visa status. It's not their battle to be fought. What if they were citizens? What would they do? Would they just sit on their backs and do nothing? No. Salama said, we were never as terrified as we were when we heard that the Najashi might lose. So they are desperate to get their freedom. Well, we are in similar, not that similar, but nonetheless, we have some types of similarities here. The final point, inshallah, and then we will conclude, that Najashi eventually died a number of years later, and the Prophet ﷺ came out one day in Medina, and he said, Jibreel has come and informed me that a pious brother of yours has died in a neighboring land. Before anybody could come and tell him, 2 weeks journey, instantaneously, on that very minute, the Prophet ﷺ was informed that Najashi has died. And he commanded the Sahaba to come and pray the one and only prayer that was ever prayed in the life of the Prophet ﷺ, Salat al-Janaza al-Ghaib. The only time ever in the history of Islam that the Prophet ﷺ prayed over somebody without a body being present. It's called Salat al-Janaza al-Ghaib. Never before or after except over Najashi. And I've written a long article on this. You can Google it online, or I can send you the link, or maybe we can send it here, about the fiqh of praying Salat al-Janazah over Ghaib. When should it be prayed? The four madhabs all have different opinions. The question arises, why did the Prophet ﷺ only pray over Najashi? Was it because A, he was a famous person, so that anytime a famous person who helps Islam, let me say, a famous person who helps Islam, anytime a famous person who helps Islam dies, then the whole world should pay Janazah al-Ghaib over him? Or was it because B, nobody in Abyssinia prayed Janazah over him because he was a secret Muslim? And so because nobody prayed over him in Abyssinia, the Prophet ﷺ prayed over him in Medina. Based on this ikhtilaf, the four madhabs had their own opinions, and even within the four you have more, and I have written an article about this, you can find it online. In my humble opinion, the reason is because nobody else prayed over him, and that is because many famous Sahaba died in the lifetime of the Prophet ﷺ, and he didn't pray, and they died in either in battles or in other places, and he didn't pray janazah over them. And therefore this shows, and Allah knows best, that we pray janazah, Salat al-Ghaib, over people whose janazah was not prayed over. But if somebody has prayed janazah over somebody, then it doesn't make sense to pray Salat al-Janazah al-Ghaib. Nonetheless, this is a fiqh issue, nothing to do with seerah. I'm just saying as a point of interest. Inshallah, we have gone slightly over our time. We'll take some questions next week, inshallah ta'ala. Just remember them and write them down. And there's an announcement to make, and inshallah I will see you all next week, inshallah, as well. So, go ahead.
Wow, another hour's gone by. Definitely subscribe at that point. You've spent all these hours of your life. Go like the video so more people come into this community. Of course, with more people coming, I'm gonna have to deal with more autistic, sorry, not autistic, wrong word, guys, just dumb comments. If you binge watch my video, you should become a member. Not just for me, but because it's like there's benefits to it. Especially if you have a lot of videos I was talking about earlier. It's like your suggestions are done much more quicker. You get access to Members Week. Soon, like, member perks are going to be updated. I'm lazy to explain all the benefits that you get when you become a channel member. You could go watch a video on my channel. You could go watch that. Just click join. You'll see the video talking about all the perks that you get when you become a channel member. With all that being said, though, thank you for watching and goodbye. I have a Patreon too, but I could link it. I'm just so lazy, guys. If you guys are interested in the Patreon, just let me know.